Well, I don't know what happened. I told everybody to come back to the because after we fixed the stream, and some of them did. For some reason, if the stream cuts out even this early in the game, it seems like people just go, forget it. Not gonna do it. Yeah, just one chance, you blew it. Gave up that home run ball. The game hadn't even started yet. Oh, you were going to. You were going to strike out. You were going to. Yeah. That's what was going to happen. So it's going to happen. You were going to throw that pitch and give away that home run. I could feel it in my bones. You're that kind of guy. And other baseball references. So I'm saying baseball because it's not football season. So somebody asked me the other day, they're like, "You like baseball?" And they emphasize the B on there. Don't you love it when they do that?
Oh, it's great. Tells you a lot about where their mind's at.
You like baseball? I was like, wow, dude. Jeez. Could you possibly get more cringy with your... And I was like, Nelly, stop. Okay? I love you, honey. That was a joke. I'm kidding. Okay? You just throw something at me. Joking, once again, folks, got to put a little disclaimer on there. Somebody asked me why that is, because people don't always get jokes. And I don't want to be responsible for someone going out and trying something. You know, will an anvil fall on my head and will it actually hurt? I mean, you know, people will go out and see if it works.
Yeah, we're not limited by those weaknesses, but we understand that some of you are, so we wouldn't recommend you guys go and doing it.
The crew of PRT is basically from the show Invincible.
Yeah.
Also known as the comic book Invincible. We're all that. That's all of us. But what we got tonight here, and I was going to show you this, folks. This is the Saint Benedict. That's what it looks like. That's a. I keep that in my studio here. Somebody asked me. They said, "Why is it so important?" You know, why is it so important that we do this, like protection? You know, like Saint Benedict. Why would it be important? I said, well, it's got a prayer on there that's actually in Latin. And I don't know if, Anthony, if you can, when you get a chance, when you're done doing what you're doing, if you could put it on the screen maybe. It's in liturgical Latin, which is like ecclesiastical Latin, whatever, and then you can see what it means, what it says. But we have some weird stuff going on. I didn't really plan a show tonight. I knew that it was going to happen, but I wasn't like planning. I just did not. I had so much going on. We're doing this thing with the build, with the house, and we had to meet with the builders. And so Saturday was eaten up by that, and then we had a bunch of other stuff going on. And it's just been a stressful, you know, Friday we had Christopher Jordan in the studio.
A great guest.
It was a great guest. Yeah, a lot of enthusiasm.
It was like 3 or 4 hours, and it just passed by in an instant.
Yeah, it didn't even seem like it was that long.
I mean, I wasn't even paying attention to the chat. Like, to be honest, I was so focused on like what was going on in the conversation that kind of just, like, I remember looking back at the chat and like people were like, "Oh, he's not really paying attention as much," and I'm like, "Yeah, I just didn't mean to."
Yeah, he's a very good guest.
A lot to say and a very smart guy. Gore Lord asked, which saint was it that was like 10 feet tall?
I don't know of a 10-foot tall other than St. Michael. He would be a lot taller than that, though.
Paul asked, how did you decide which stories to put in your book, Josh?
That one, oh, man. So there's going to be a few that have never been told, and then there's going to be a lot that you've probably heard before. But there were some that I did on another person's show, and I thought that needed to be, that they needed to be done correctly. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And it'll be good to have them written down and stuff.
Yeah.
Jonathan asked, Josh, will you consider having your book written in other languages, such as German? I guess translated.
It's funny that I was talking with somebody about that yesterday or a couple days ago, and then I talked about it with Nellie, and we were going over different phrases. I speak not fluently, but I'm talking about the prayer. I wanted to put the prayer up there. I want the people to know what the prayer means. But let me see if I can find, or maybe I should put my glasses on. It'd probably help, and I could read it to you. Several things going on. Let's take one thing at a time here. Okay, the language thing. Languages, as you know, if you've been watching the show, they don't translate to English very well.
No.
There are words like I don't want to butcher this, and I'm pretty sure it's Volksspiel, which is like there's a few terms. It kind of means like a sneaky one, or
You mean like a fox or something like that?
it's like a game. It means like game fox, but it's like a term that does. It's Germanic, but it doesn't translate to English. And there's a ton of terms like that. There's terms in Spanish, a lot of.
Well, I mean, even
like, when you go back, like I've been on sites where they have like the names of the videos,
mm-hmm.
and they have them in English, and it's like, he did have for good time to go talk to her. She went, and then fun happened. You're like, what? Because they're translating it literally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can tell when somebody's doing what is it called? Google Text or whatever. Was it translator?
Google Translate, yeah.
Because you can see that they're talking all fancy, and then he's like, what? Nobody talks like that.
Well, I mean, also like in Vietnamese or even in Spanish, like different words have a different meaning depending on who you're speaking about. Like, for instance, if I'm talking to a little girl or if I'm talking to an aunt, like the way that you would say those words would differ entirely. And so like that doesn't get translated well in English when you only have I, him, he, sure. Like that doesn't really work as well.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to try to convey everything. It is hard.
Yeah, exactly. Gambly boy. A lot of slang in other languages that you'd have to speak to understand as well. Oh, crap. Hey, Anthony. Live just ended on my phone.
It's showing that we're still on.
Is it?
I just lost signal, I guess.
Lost signal.
Hey, guys, we're back.
They just said it lost signal.
Just bear with us, guys. Seems like we're having some issues, but
everything's been a mess this week, dude. Everything has been a mess. I was kind of waiting around, folks, to get more people in the chat and then see if this thing is going to cooperate, and that's why I'm kind of just sitting here chilling. Sorry, folks. It's 8:30. I didn't expect to be this late already, and it just had one thing after another happen this week.
Well, while we're waiting, if you have any more questions you want to ask Wolf or me, go ahead and send them out. It's a good time to.
We're losing people here. You know what, dude? Let's just call it a day. It's just been one hell week after. It's been a week, I'll tell you.
It's a good question, Paul.
What do you say?
Do you think a person becomes a werewolf by letting a dog man in his spirit form possess them?
Yeah, I mean,
that would
that
work,
could
right?
definitely work. I mean, I think that would probably. I have not had time to do research today. I mean, it's just I was trying to get ready and. It's got every prayer on here but the one I need. If you can find the prayer in English that's on the St. Benedict medal, because I don't have it memorized. I'm asking Tony. Anthony, you're doing. Somebody said in the comments in the last video, they said that Tony has better insight because Anthony doesn't do anything but be a parrot for me. And I'm like, Anthony's the technical guy. He's not even on camera on lives anymore.
I don't think we all are a pair for anybody. I think we have very clear views.
Yeah, we don't always agree, and sometimes we argue, dude. So I mean,
I think like even the things we agree about, we're not perfectly in agreement about.
No, not really. I mean, these. You think you know everything about people, you don't. Thank you for that donation, Michelle. I'm sorry, this is.
Is this the prayer?
It's more than that. It's the Saint Benedict prayer of exorcism. You just look up what prayer is on the Benedict symbol.
Someone posted it in Latin.
Yeah, it's in Latin. I know it in Latin, but I need the translation to English, and I need the exact translation, not
All right, there it is in the chat. Gotta read it.
Here it is, right here. All right, let me put my glasses on. I hate having to wear these. They look like a goober. But I chose this part right here on there to look more like a goober, so go figure. It says here, where is it in chat? I just saw it.
Admiratora?
That's not going to help me.
You want me to read it?
Oh, okay. Somebody put it on there?
Yeah.
St. Benedict's prayer, may the Holy Cross be my light. May the dragon never be my guide. Be gone, Satan. Never tempt me with your vanities. What you offer me is evil. Drink the poison yourself. That's basically what it says. It says my sound is low. Jose G says, have you ever had reports of dogman in California? No, just ridiculous taxes. They don't have dogman in California. There's none there. They've been hunted to near extinction by Trump's family. You know, that's what they did. They're terrible people who go hunting with the Bushes and the Clintons, and they shoot all the Tyrannosaurus Rexes. Okay?
As you do.
Somebody literally posted a Triceratops, and they thought that Trump had actually shot the Triceratops. And they're like, Barron Trump is evil. At the time, Barron was like a little boy. I mean, how old is? I don't even know how old his son is. His kid's not very old.
No, I just know they attacked him.
For being
his little age.
Child though was like, I know he's like 6'8" or something. I know Mike Tyson like absolutely loves Trump. I'm reserving any opinions about the guy one way or the other. Okay, I have my beliefs and my opinions, but it was just he was talking about how smart Barron Trump was, and I guess he's like Tyson was talking, so everybody's hating on him and Kid Rock and Dana White because they're friends with him or something. The one thing I will say is this: I actually did not vote, and then it's like, oh, you didn't vote. I have my reasons. It's not that I didn't want to vote or didn't think it was, but the machines they're using, I mean, doesn't matter.
You can't trust in it.
Doesn't matter. When my guys went to vote, these two right here, and then Zane and Scorpion, in the last election with the one going into Hillary, whatever, the person that they voted for, it got switched right before their eyes. You think I'm playing? Am I playing? I'm not playing.
No.
So,
And I remember Zane specifically saying, like, he would sit there and try to switch it back, and
And
like
it
as
wouldn't
soon as
go
he would
back.
hit the next button, he'd see it switch
Yeah.
back.
And
so
don't
he'd have to
say
go
who it
back.
was, but just and who he was voting for. It was switching it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "What happened now?" It's
Refresh it to keep the feed going.
so what's wrong with this thing?
I don't know at this point.
Hey guys, I guess it stopped again.
It's got you talking. Jose, I was joking about Dogman reports. I guess maybe you're new here, but we get a lot of reports out of California. My wife is actually from there, up in the Mojave Desert, and she saw a Dogman when she was a kid with her sister, and it's California, and we get a ton of them.
Hey, but 5x5 News, nice to see you again.
It dropped down to 71. Wow, 164 people to 71.
It's showing 40 for me. Let me see. Let me refresh it real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, we lost like half our audience. May have to just dump the lives. Start pre-recording everything. Somebody just said that their YouTube keeps switching them to another podcast. Yeah, I know that on the ads they were advertising some podcast, and I don't even know what it is or whose it is or what it is. Yeah, we have a whole bunch of stuff planned. I'm about to do a series of shows chronicling my deep dive into the Middle East. Lucky the Beagle and Molly said reboot, and you can get back on the live stream. And they should know because they're highlighted in green, meaning that they chose to be friends of the show and pay the $5, which is helpful to the show. The rest of you are not doing that, so you are not friends of the show. You're just watching.
You're just mere acquaintances, I think.
Yeah, you're just there. You're just ugly and stupid. And as another show host says, you're just dumb. Never underestimate how stupid the audience is. What he told me.
I need to ask my mom about that snake story you told me about because I never heard that.
About the snake, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to her about it tomorrow.
Keeps trying, but just skip it. What do you want to do?
Seems like every time we get up to an okay number, it gets cut off.
Mm-hmm. Trying to figure out what's going on here, folks.
I think.
It's working all right now.
Dinah Russo says, I don't know how to be friends with the show. Anthony can tell you about it.
Anthony's a little sick, so he's going to sound worse than he usually does.
Shout out, Tony. Okay, so Dinah Russo and anyone else who wants to have their name green, like you see if Shade Viking is in the chat, and Lucky the Beagle and Molly and Sugar Britches and Susie Jago. So if you find a subscribe button, now you're gonna see a button that's right next to the subscribe button, and it's gonna say join. If you click that, then that will put you through the process of signing up to become what's called a channel member. And the name of it, I just named it Loyal Listeners because I just wanted you have to name it something. So, but yeah, that's just a small way you can support the show, and it'll turn your name green in the chat, and you'll get like one of those little badges next to your name, just showing that you're you're a super fan.
Yeah.
So yeah.
JoJo said, imagine what might happen if you had 666 people in the chat. We have.
I think we've had that number before.
Yeah. What was the highest we got up to? Like 900 or something? Was it 900?
We got a lot of people. It was definitely
one of those after the conference we did, and it got up real high. Like 7. I remember one show. I know we got to like 778 or something like that.
Well, I remember us
then
getting back to back 700.
Yeah, it was, but it was one though. I thought the highest we ever got was 900, but I'm not sure if that's correct. It might have been 6 something or 7 something. I'm sorry. I know we had like 778 or 740, something like that, and the thing crashed. And I think that was Joe Barger's, and I know that when Martin Groves was on, we got a lot too. I mean, we've had quite a few. We've had some big numbers in the chat.
Yeah,
that's what gets me about these shows with these like million subscribers, and they got 1 million, like views on their stuff, and then they do a live stream, and there's like
7, 8 people.
There's like their mom and dad and 3 friends. It's like 120 people in your chat, and you're like, yeah, okay, you really do have 1 million subscribers.
Or you just see a bunch of bots.
They're all from one region of India.
Yeah.
Or Ukraine. Well, not Ukraine anymore because they've
dealing with other things.
Had the crap knocked out of their infrastructure.
Thank you, Michelle Collins, Susie Jago, and Samantha Phillips for those donations. I always thank for the live streams. Pray y'all get the technical difficulties figured out. Streams have been doing good for me. Love y'all.
Okay, so according to YouTube now, the stream has a healthy connection, so we'll see. Hopefully it stays that way.
You now have a healthy connection. Good luck. We hope that nothing else happens, but if it does, just know that it's not also any other government agency.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know why they would sound that way, but that just sounds like kind of a lazy British accent.
What would be the name of that accent?
Very lazy. Well, Cockney, I guess it would be, but
yeah, it sounds
like more like a lazy one though. Like, well, no, because now I'm sounding like Nick Redford.
Yeah,
I don't want to jump on Nick because he's like, I'm sitting here in the studio and it's just a bunch of weird stuff happening.
Thank you, IG Hunt. For
I don't want to
donation.
do that.
It's your first super chat. We appreciate that. Same for Samantha.
I was watching Tyson Fury the other day talk. He got mad at Joe Rogan.
Mm.
I was going to stir the pot a little bit and see if I could reach out to Joe through a mutual friend and be like, "Hey, Tyson Fury wants to beat you up. Let's get some controversy going here." And then I end up getting sued, so never mind. But I just thought about it because he's like, "I'm not going to be getting in the ring and wrestling and all that," because he's talking about John Jones. I disagree with you, Joe. How about that? I don't dislike you. I think you're, got a good show and everything, but I disagree with you respectfully. I don't think Tyson Fury would walk into a room and get killed, literally physically killed by John Jones.
Mm.
I just don't believe that. Tyson's so huge. I mean, Fury is a big guy.
Yeah.
And John Jones is not. It'd be like me and Anthony in a room together. And, he said if they went to a room together, like how big is this room? Because if they end up in a room this size,
I don't know. After seeing,
I think Fury could throw a really hard right.
Oh,
and
definitely.
Just because John Jones is not built to get hit by a heavyweight boxer. I mean, but like he could kick him. There's a lot of things he could do.
I mean, a fight's always either or. Like you can't really say.
Too.
Really,
I mean, where are you fighting at?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you fighting with? Whatever. And one of the reasons why I say this because I got an epic Dogman's, 2 of them, Dogman stories that I want to tell. But if we got to see if this bull will let us do it or not. And folks, if you are a supporter of Brandon, I'm not bagging on you. I just think that I'm watching him. I'm watching it all over again. I mean, I thought GW was this. It could not get any dumber. Than him. And then now it's like, Brandon comes up and says, "Hold my beer," and it just gets gets stupid.
Yeah, at least it felt like there was a brain somewhere, no matter how small GW. At least there was one in there.
There was like, "There's a fool. Or say we got you fooled me once. The fools can't be fooled again." You understand? I'm just like, dude, You know, and I had friends from out of state just bagging on me like, this guy's from Texas. I'm like, no, he's not.
I don't know why he claims
He's from Massachusetts or some crap, dude. He's always like, I'm a cowboy. I'm a cowboy. Woo, woo, woo. You ain't no cowboy, dude. You're not from here. Your whole family's like from Kennebunkport, Maine, or is that the Kennedys? I don't know. These politicos, these crapheads, wherever they're from, you know. And then you got this guy, you know, and it's just like,
I don't even think that's a Texas saying.
you know. I had a friend, and he's from Ecuador, and he's okay. You know him. He's I don't want to say his name until because he's going to release some really information. Entomologist, spider guy.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Julio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so anyway, he was like, dude, he crapped in front of the Pope. I mean, you know, he doesn't know anything about our politics. Doesn't care. He's a scientist. Doesn't give a crap. He's working up in the hills right now, up in Peru, and so, you know, he's just like, dude, your president did this, you know, and I'm like, Connecticut, that's what it was. They have a house in Kennebunkport. Thank you, Rebecca. I don't know. You know, how cowboy are you if you're from Connecticut? You really can't come down here acting like, you know, you just got off a horse and robbed a stagecoach and yeehaw. I mean, you know, what are you doing? But this guy in there, the economy, I mean, folks, I don't want to talk politics, man. I'm sorry, but I just cannot.
It's really killing us out here. And, I mean, you all feel it too, so.
Just financially, let me tell you this, the subsidized housing, I do security for subsidized housing. That's one of the niches we do. And it's practically on hold. Now, how is it that you can give money to all these other places in the world, but you can't do, I mean, and if you are on that side of the fence, which I'm not, I try to stay out of it, you know, as much as I can. But, you know, I'm like, dude, how neutral can you be if you want to sit there and let this get? I mean, we're going to be destroyed. You got to you got to use your brain, dude. I mean, come on, man. I mean, I've tried to like people. I never tried to like this guy because I never liked him ever. Period. But when I mean, I don't care about that. And then, you know, a friend of mine the other day, he goes, "This guy Trump, he got a filthy mouth." I don't give a crap about his mouth, dude. I don't give two craps about him, what he eats for breakfast, what his hobbies are. You know, it's not like he's going to be up there debating, you know, I want to be president, but that's just one of my many aspirations. I also like rollerblading and frozen yogurt. I don't give a crap. I don't care.
I mean, it seems pretty
I'm going to go for the guy that's going to make the money and put it in my pocket, and he's going to do that for my other people. Because let me tell you something. During the housing bubble, when old GW and his buddy, the Emperor, Darth Vader, whatever, which, you know, because let's be honest, he was running the country. I mean, let's be honest. It was a fiasco. And by the time they were done robbing the house, I mean, you know, I was supporting half of Texas. I burned through my savings that I had built for 2 years. Bailing people out, friends and family who, let's be honest, bought houses for $2 down and a pack of bubble gum, the size of a cathedral or the size of a gymnasium. And I know Anthony's in the other room, but he can attest to this. He remembers me telling people on the phone over and over again, do not buy a house. And I went to go look at these contracts. I'm not going to go into a long dissertation, folks, and I'm going to give you these stories. Don't worry. I promise, okay? I just want you to hear this. And I looked at these contracts, and I'm like, do you look at this? Middle of your contract. Have you seen this? One of them was my own sister. Yeah. And I said, you have a 33, whatever, something, I don't remember what it was, 30-something thousand balloon payment in the middle.
Exorbitant amount.
Yeah, and then your mortgage is going to go up at that point, like double. And I'm trying to explain to people, it's like, you know, when they punt the ball and you're waving your teammates off, don't touch it, let it fall dead, let the whistle blow, and then one of your teammates dives into it, you know, like Leon Lett did back when they were playing the Dolphins in '93 on Thanksgiving. Way to go, Leon. Leon Lett, poor guy, cowboy, but, you know, he made some mistakes. He was a great baller. But, you know, that happened to us one time when we were like, we lost a football game because of that. Pee Wee League. And I remember just being devastated because it was like that game cost us a chance to go to the championship. The next year we actually went back and won it. But because stupid kids not listening because they got stupid parents that don't teach them how to do stuff. That's exactly what it was. A kid was a spoiled kid named Eric. And, when spoiled kids grow up to be told that they can do and whatever they want to do and be whatever they want to be, and they grow up and they become president. Well, GW, he went in there and I'm not going to lie. I mean, I knew exactly what they were doing with Halliburton. It was just like, come on, dude. I don't want to get too political, whatever. I mean, maybe I'm saying too much. But then you got this guy coming in here. What blows my mind, what absolutely blows my mind is that I can be impartial to the right or the left, the Democrat, Republican. I don't have an allegiance. I go by the person. You don't get much of a choice. It's a douchebag or a turd sandwich, but you got to try to pick the right one, right? Which sandwich in that machine is going to give you the least amount of dysentery? That's what you're dealing with right now. So I'm going to go with who's going to make the money for me, or who's going to keep the economy going. That's how I vote. And this guy, he gets, everything has just shut down. During COVID, subsidized housing was still rolling. It was still booming. Everything was going. And then gradually it just ground to a halt. These people, and they think that what they're doing is voting for a party that's for the people. That's not what's happening now. What's happening now is you're voting for like a piece of cloth, like you root for a football or baseball team. And there are people who really literally do that. They will vote for whoever is the party that they chose to be with, and that's their party. And that's it. They don't care. The devil could walk out there and be like, I'm the devil, and I'm going to enslave you all. They're like, well, at least he's in my party. I'm going to vote for him. And they literally do that.
To me, personally, it feels like no different from gangs. They're fighting over different colors, and they're more than willing to do the most harm and the most hatred thing to the other side just because they're on the other side. And they're not having they're not repping the same colors. Yeah. It's like, it's not about beliefs anymore because you can't really tell me what one person believes over the other.
It's pretty, it has gotten so, people are determined. And I posted a thing on there as a Chinese businessman talking about how much money he made, just recently. I posted it on my Facebook. Go look at it. You think I'm joking? He's admitting it. Like, he's flat out admitting it. He's like, it made me rich. What people didn't understand was the deal with Mexico. Okay, if what concerns you is immigration and the border, so what I'm going to do is probably make a channel on like Rumble. I'm looking into some other like side channels to where they're not YouTube, to where I can understand. Where you guys, where I can understand, y'all can understand what I'm saying on here, but you're not able to get the full Monty. And I will lay it out there. Geopolitics, economics, history, science, whatever you want to know, I will lay it out there.
I'll tell you how it is, just how it is. How it was, how it happened in history.
Somebody, wanted to joke around the other day about IQ points, and I don't want to sound like I'm not, I don't want to sound arrogant. I hate that. People already have an attitude of swagger about me. People, they take my confidence as arrogance. And this guy's like, oh, no, I'm smarter than you. He's the guy that's always complaining about the dogman attacks being dogs or whatever. So he tried to say something on his Facebook about, oh, no, I'm smarter than you. Son, I'm going to tell you like this. Okay? Don't go there. Because I will take an IQ test on air. I've taken a lot of them. And then you take one on air, and let's see who comes out on top. The capacity to learn. Let's see what you got. Well, it's Dan Garcia says I have an IQ of 132. That's not bad. The average is 100. That's 115. I think in this country is like the average is like 115, some of that. I don't even want to say what my IQ test is. Tony probably knows what it is.
It's impressive. I mean,
yeah, and I'm not bragging. I'm not talking crap, but what is the genius level considered? 152, 153?
I think, yeah.
But I want to look it up.
Okay.
So what I want is to do a show, a channel where I can talk about a lot of things I can't talk about on here, and it would help to explain a lot what's going on here, because the spiritual warfare is real, folks. What's happening? Why do you think all these people are seeing these creatures that they're seeing right now? Yeah, Mimi, so IQ is determined how fast you can learn and adapt to information.
Say any score above 140 is meant to be genius level.
Yeah. I believe it was 152, 153.
Well,
it changes all the
yeah,
time.
it changes because they're saying 130, 160. So, yeah, I guess it doesn't.
Suffice it to say that my IQ is up there. Okay, let's just, I don't want to get into a big, because I've taken many IQ tests. The last one I took was 153. And so I guess I was on the cusp of being a genius. I don't know what that's,
All I know is at a number that I can't count to.
It's actually gone down, though. And I was like, because I took it, I was at 158, and I was telling my wife, and then when I took it, I was at 153. And she was like, what happened? And I'm like, I was watching Netflix for a couple days. That was it. You're like, whoa. I was like, I got out of the, I got off the bed after watching one show, and I was like, it go by because I need to eat food, and it was like, she's like, honey, calm down, okay? Just try to meditate the Netflix out of your head. It worked. I think it was the one where they were. It's the wet dream of the one side where women are being forced to, what's it called, the brides, the tales of the bride, or I try to dump this as quick as I see it. It
sounds like I'm losing brain cells.
The tales of the handmaid or the bride's tale,
handmaiden's tale or something like that.
Whatever. Yeah, is that what it was? So horrible, and they had that girl that looked like the blobfish on there. Look up blobfish and then look her up.
Oh, I know what a blobfish is.
I made a meme about it right after that, and I posted it on there. I was just like, I got in trouble for it too. Facebook's like, no, Mr. Guy, no, Mr. Man who knows his pronouns. You can't be not gonna make fun of a show that communists that love. Can't do that. You're stupid. Next time we're gonna hire a witch to.
Thank you for the $20, Steven.
Strike you with lightning or a fireball or something. Kill you. But I was just like, yeah, I better watch it, dude. I can't, And my wife wanted to watch it, and to her credit, she gave it a chance based on, I think, the
is it a book or something? I think
I'm sure it's some angry, third wave, book, lady's book. She's over there like, and then they put us all in camps, and they force us to be with men we don't want to be with. And so, but the only good thing about it was, though, that like Texas was like a good guy. Oh. Like Texas had split away and made their own country in the show. Oh. Because I jumped around and I like shut my brain off during most of it, but then at one point I remember hearing something about Texas, and I was at, how when you turn your switch off in your back,
you hear keywords.
Yeah, and you just kind of go, you power down, and then you hear Texas, and you're like, that's kind of how I am. And so when I heard Texas, and I'm like, oh, what was that? And then I heard the guy saying Texas had split away because they weren't going to take part in the evil that was going on. Or whatever.
Okay.
Which I thought was kind of funny because Texas is actually, us in Florida are two of the last bastions of freedom. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do. I don't agree with one thing, though. And this sets people off. I don't believe that a person under the age of 21 can just walk into a store and buy a gun. No. Now, granted, when we walk into a store here in Texas, like we have a sporting goods store called Academy. Now, one of my listeners asked me about that. What's the rules? I said, I walk in there. I have to fill out a federal form. And if the federal government deems that I cannot have that gun, sorry, Charlie, they don't sell it to you. Nobody will. So it's still based upon what the federal government wants to say. And
really, the main thing that I could see being an issue is how easy it is to just buy a gun from like another person, but
Yeah.
buying it from a store or buying
but I
it,
think that they need to have not just background checks, because we got to get background checks, but they need to have psych evals. And I will say this too, and Garetano touched a little bit on it in the interviews we had. Kind of weird, you know, like how all of these problems with guns happen during certain administrations. Put it that way. You know, like they, you know, we're having a bunch of them, bunch of people going out and shooting them up, acting crazy. Look at how many happened during the last administration as opposed to the one before that, and then this one here. And then people start to ask me questions about code words and things that, you know, who knows who might be involved and how they trigger those people, because these people are always mentally ill. You have to be mentally ill to do something like that. You have to be. How much of it could be psyop? We're not allowed to talk about that because, ooh, that's bad, you know. But I'm almost to the point where I had thoughts today. I was just working out. I was like, you know, I was in my own little world, and I just thought, I'm going to shut my channel down. Like, that literally crossed my mind. Like, I just thought, I'm going to go and I'm just going to just completely shut it down and take everything off the internet. And then I thought, what am I doing? I got a conference coming up in like September, you know, and this channel's doing better than ever, but I don't want to be beholden to these people at all.
that's the scary thing about getting too big is like at some point you're going to have to.
That's why I'm not going to give up my other investments. That's why I'm going to grow my other investments, because I can never rely just on this, because the further down the rabbit hole I went, the more I learned about things. I'm going to tell you something, folks. It gets really spooky when you start going down the rabbit hole. We were talking about CERN. Admithoria she said that I know the whole thing. She wrote it back in the 80s. Being inspired by, though, and then, you know, she took it to another level. She was like, this is happening in America. She didn't write a book about what was happening in Persia, or I guess Iran, whatever you want to call it. She didn't write a book based on that. She wrote a book aimed at the right here in the United States, and that someday it's going to get so bad that that's going to happen here. Bullcrap. I don't believe that, and I don't believe Texas is going to put you on a list. Heard somebody say that the other day. You know, I just don't. I don't believe that, and both sides are just so paranoid of the other. But at one time, I didn't trust either one. And now I'm starting to see that they're using one side completely as their vessel, as their vehicle, because it's been years and years of social etiquetting, basically to kind of mold us into this whatever. And every generation is bad. Okay, the boomers, greedy, selfish as the day is long. I am not lying. Very greedy, selfish generation, considering that their parents sacrificed a lot. And I'm not trying to be mean, but and I love boomers. A lot of my friends are boomers. A lot of my friends are Gen Xers. But millennials, lazy, uninformed, and opinionated, but very, very lazy. Slothfulness and laziness and greedy little turds too. I mean, really, they are. So I had somebody, a millennial, say, well, what's wrong with your generation? And I was like, I can tell you exactly what's wrong with our generation. We got our own issues. Self-centeredness is a big one. Not so much the entitlement, you know, that you see with y'all's generation, with the millennial generation, is just entitled as hell. But one of the problems with my generation, and the biggest problem with my generation, and I think it's worse than it is with the boomers, and definitely with the millennials, is the envy. My generation is the I'm better than you generation. Let's put it that way. And I really feel that way. I feel like, you know, when you run into people from your past, when you were like in high school, whatever, they're like, oh, what are you doing now? And they're waiting so they can see if you're doing better than them. And I always I was going to say bull, the bad word, but I always bull crap people. I say, I'm president. They're like, oh, like and then what they say next kind of determines how petty and bitchy they are. So they'll be like, oh, like of your sewing club or something, you know? And I'm like, no, I'm actually the president. I'm the president of a school. Which one? I don't know. Whichever one your kid goes to, I'm the boss over there. You know, like I totally just lied the other day. This was like school, Gaddis school, whatever.
Yeah.
And I run into these people, and I was not really friendly, not in the mood to talk to these people. You know, I was just kind of like there. And so I saw him across the restaurant, kind of waved, and then I ducked out. Then he's like, hey, man, saw you in the, Serranos, buddy. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're still there. Great. Wanted to catch up with you. What are you doing these days? You don't know what I'm doing these days? Well, I've had a channel, a paranormal show for 4 years. And it's not that you give a crap. And we weren't friends in high school. I wasn't like one of those goofy, lovable loser people in high school either, dude. I was mean. I used to beat the crap out of people. I wasn't a bully. I just didn't take people's crap.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, you kind of hung out with everybody, and then you kind of bullied whoever was like the bit bully. It felt like.
Yeah, I did get credited for that, but I got in some fights with people just because I didn't like them too.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
This kid right here, his brother, he didn't never like me. His brother didn't like me because I slapped his brother in algebra because he wouldn't let the teacher talk. He just wanted to keep talking. And I was getting tired of every day the same thing. This guy's not opening his book. He's a wastoid. Now he's a drug addict, so it makes sense. It's like anytime this guy says anything to me, I'm like, oh, really? How's Kyle? Still druggy? Yeah, that's what I thought. So you got that on him, but I'm not trying to be petty. But my generation is very petty. Mm-hmm. They're envious, and they're very jealous, and they're chicante, as they say in Spanish. So what this dude did, really crazy, right? And the only thing that's cool about this guy is, I'll tell you this, his cousin saw a dog man down in a creek bottom. And I got a story from him not too long ago. And I like his cousin. And I agree that I'm not going to say his name because people will figure out who he is. And he's on my Facebook. And so I was just like, oh, hey, what's up? He's probably looking at it. He doesn't watch the show. He's too self-absorbed. Says he works 90 hours a week because he's got a lot of golfing to do when he's not. Could give a crap what you do, dude. But he was like, hey, I wanted to catch up with you, man. What are you doing these days? And I was like, I'm running a school. He's like, really? Which one? I was like, which one do you kids go to? And he says, I'll get a school, whatever. I said, oh, yeah, that one. I'm in charge over there. Man, got a fruit basket real quick. I'm just kidding. I did say that, though. And then he goes, really? Then there was just like a long pause, and I just threw the phone down, and then a few minutes later, I hear the ding. I'm like trying to watch Sports Center, whatever the heck it was. I don't know what the freaking heck was on TV. I took the phone and I was like, oh, it's him. And I was like, oh, just kidding. Ha, ha, ha. I have a podcast. I run a security company. Didn't tell me what he did, and I still don't know, and I don't care. Because we weren't friends in school. He was one of those people that walk by you in the hallway and go, hey.
Oh, nameless NPC number 7.
Yeah, don't give a crap. Don't care. Dated one of the women that was popular, bobbleheady, whatever, a bunch of them. And then now they pretend like they're my friend. We weren't friends in high school. They were like, oh, you were that guy that was like always getting in trouble, getting into fights in the hallway and beating up people, like whatever. Didn't you go to jail or something? And I was like, I died. I'm dead. Totally died. Anyways, folks, here's what's going on. I think we got this thing working. I've been like kind of waiting because I don't want to get into a big story and then something go poop, whatever. I hate that. It's still doing it.
It's kind of on and off. I've heard a couple things, people saying it's been buffering again, but so far it seems like it hasn't cut out entirely, so that's good.
Yeah, Isla, she says, I think Gen X had to earn our award, just making us a little more competitive. Competitive as hell, that's for sure. But also, I think our parents were burnouts, and they pushed us to succeed. And I can tell you right now, there's some parents out there who they want their children to take care of them. They screwed their lives up. They didn't do what they were supposed to do, and they didn't stop drinking and drugging. So guess what? Their kids are born to basically take care of them.
Oh yeah, they see them more as like labor than they do really your future. Yeah. It's like
that's true. Like we have my mom's cousin, who she's a big fat annoying person, and she's got a son who has basically his life revolves around pleasing her. And I understand loving your mom or whatever, but it's a little weird. It gets beyond, and so I don't speak to them anymore. But he's the future for her. Like that's all she has is the other kids have kind of figured out, except for one, I think one of the sisters. They figured out that she's a big fat old burnout who did nothing but drugs and booze, and now had a kid late in life that she's using to, basically be her meal ticket.
It sucks too, because like he's a good kid.
Well, we don't know now. He was.
Oh, he was when I knew him. He was smart.
Now he's been turned into a little version of her or whatever. But what can you do? All you can do is not deal with them. I don't deal with a lot of my mom's side of the family. Just useless people. If you have anything better than them, like I said, they don't like it. And if you have anything, if you got something going on, they're not a part of it. They're not going to support you. Not all of my mom's family's like that. I like a couple of my uncle. One of my uncle just passed away recently, but I like my mom's brother. I like my aunt Jovita. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, the rest of them just can all go jump off a big old boat. And and it's like that with my dad too. My dad is a prime example of a greedy boomer. A very, very, very greedy person whose God is Mammon or Mammon. I want to talk about that for a minute. Mammon is the god of money, right? And it's really weird. I was watching a show the other day, and they were talking about this demon that they were trying to contact, like this. I don't remember what it was. It was something I fell asleep. I didn't even finish it. I fell asleep watching, and I can't remember all of it. But they were trying to contact him, as he is considered to be by the Islamic, that he's one of the main kings of the jinn. And he's considered to be very evil. And it's weird that, and I pointed this out to one of my Muslim friends. I said, dude, his name is Mammon, the way they pronounce it. But if you think about it, my moon. And then I pointed out that Allah was considered the moon god. And he lost it. And I said, okay, I'm just saying, you just, words are words, dude, but they have meanings. Okay. Like Saturn, it's a planet, right? It's also the bad guy. When you look at Saturn, Satan, it's very similar. Just move a couple letters at the end there, and then when you write, to spell is to cast, and people don't understand. They don't get that. People ask me all the time, why do we need to say words? Why say a prayer like a Saint Benedict prayer in Latin? Why say it in ecclesiastical Latin? What's the purpose? And I said it before, and I'll say it again, because those are the languages that were hung above the head of Christ. This dive I'm doing in the Middle East, I'm going to be doing a few shows. It's going to come up probably in about a month. About a month from now, we'll start doing those. We'll start releasing them. And then we have a project that I'm going to try and embark on with Jordan, Christopher Jordan. Nick Redfern and Daniel Jones, and it's going to be alien abduction. I'm trying to connect the dots.
That Chris, as you said, Friday was the last piece of the puzzle. So,
when you go down this rabbit hole with me and you come out on the other side, I hope that we all can be smarter for it. Because some people don't believe that we can find answers, but I'm not of that opinion. I think if we keep trying, you can. Yep. At least.
yeah, the only way you can't find answers is if you give up
Yeah.
on looking for them.
That's right. At least we give you something that other podcasts that I feel like there's a million podcasts and shows out there, YouTube, that will tell you, about a story. They'll give you a story about the rake or a dogman, Bigfoot, or a ghost. They're not giving you anything beyond that. The guest tells the story, wash, rinse, repeat, And it happens over and over again. You tell a story that somebody told you, wash, rinse, repeat. But you're not giving them like anything to cling to or to hang on or to go, like food for thought for later on. Like, why is it this way? Because that's a big part of what makes my show stick out. If without that, I'm not doing anything different than anybody else. And I noticed the shift is happening. It's really happening. And it's because my competitors and people who have bigger shows than me, they're starting to shift. They're starting to let people talk about other things besides that little niche that they've kind of boxed themselves into. They're letting people come on, and they're kind of having to anyway, and telling them, go ahead and talk about that too, because they need to fill the hour for the show. It works fine until, you've pigeonholed yourself into a pigeonhole that you can't really, unpigeon out of, which is happening to some of these people because they're all about Bigfoot. They're all about Dogman. So they can't really stray. So what they do is they go and they make alternate channels for those subjects, which is the stupidest thing ever because, you're already kind of known as this guy for that guy, for that subject. We're not there to, or, whatever, to hear, and this is what the listeners are going to say. We're not there to hear you talk about this other stuff. It's like I'm going to get, roasted for the first hour of talking about other stuff. The reason I did that, though, I have a method to my madness because this thing is on the fritz, and I don't know if it's going to go blink out when I start talking about stories. I don't want that. It's annoying.
It seems to be pretty stable for now.
Yeah, I want to make sure. So, anyways, you're getting the whole thing here. I try to tell the stories in their entirety. I had several stories that I had left a lot of meat on the bone with, and I wanted to get into some of these. I always end up leaving some, and then I'm like, I'm going to go back to them, and then I just forget about them, and then they lay there in the notes, but they don't show up in the files because I pull them out. So. Okay, let's figure out what I'm doing here. Here we go. So I got a funny one for you. Now it is paranormal, but it's funny. And there's stories that people send me that I think are funny, man. I mean, like really funny. Like this one guy sent me a story, and he wasn't trolling me. He wasn't being cute or trying to be funny. It just came out funny, and I was just like, dude, this is a freaking hilarious. We've gotten, I'd say, half a dozen reports of Goatman coming through in Colorado. And I think the reason we got them in particular is because I do a lot of research into that subject. And also because I got a couple friends up there, and then one thing led to another, and they connected me with some people. But and my godson lives up there. My friend Pete lives up there. I got a lot of friends up there. My friend Anna Shote lives up there. Nathan Samora, he's up there. A bunch of people from the show are up there. And this one was pretty funny. What they did was they went to an Airbnb. And this was just recently, not too long ago. And in the Airbnb, they had like all these trophy heads, like mountain goat, and they had like, a bobcat and taxidermied, like an elk, different types of deer, and so this guy, hearing the stories of Goat Man and whatever, and it kind of scared him. And he was, a listener of the show, and so he sends me this story, and he goes, he had to get up to go to the restroom. And he's like, he's half asleep. It's his first night in this Airbnb up there in the mountains. And he goes, I come walking down the stairs, and I'm half asleep. He goes, and there's a light, a lamp on that's illuminating, you can see the shadows. Mm-hmm. And he goes, dude, no bull. He goes, dude, I see the shadow of this being. And I mean, he goes, there was definitely something there, like you could see it was kind of like slanted, like a shadow, but it was slanted. And he said the lamp was illuminating its shadow. He's like, and I come down the stairs and I see two legs that looked like hooves or something, He's like, and then I see these horns. And he's like, dude, there was no mistaking it. They were goat horns. They were curved backward. And he goes, dude, I could see it clear as day, and it was in the middle of the night. He goes, I had to use the restroom. And the way they have was kind of like a loft where he was at. And he was walking down. And he says, I see this shadow, dude. And he goes, dude, I'm armed. He's like, so, I got, and as he goes, I'm getting ready to like run up the stairs and scream for my wife and tell her we got to get the heck out of here. He goes, and then I thought, you know what? I'm going to face whatever this is. I'm going to run it off because I don't want to run back up the stairs. And then it chased me up the stairs, And he sees that it's kind of like, it's not moving. It's just kind of just standing there. And so he starts telling it, I'm armed, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And eventually his wife wakes up. She hears him yelling. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you yelling, whatever? And so he's got his gun out. And he's like, I need to go to the restroom. And he goes, honey, stay put. There's some sort of creature here in this cabin with us. So she turns on the light. And immediately it goes away. Like it was gone. And so then he's like, what the heck? So he goes down the rest of the way and he looks and goes where the bathroom's at. And he's like, there's nothing there. And he backs up and he goes, honey, turn the light back off. So she turns it off again. And the shadow comes back. And he goes, dude, it was two different creatures. There was a taxidermied, what do you call it? It's called ibex. It's an ibex, whatever.
Okay.
One of those like ibex looking creatures. They have where you can, a big game place out there in Junction. They have those. Anyways, he's like, dude, there's this creature there, and it's like kind of up with its legs up. It's like taxidermied. He's like, and what it was the shadow of that and its hooves, and they had bled into the shadow of the mountain goat. So he created this goat man, and he's about to shoot it,
He's giving it commands.
He's over there yelling at it, and she comes down the stairs. She goes, "Oh, that is creepy, though." She's like, "It did look creepy the way that So he was so tired. He goes, "Dude, I was so tired. I laid my pistol down and I went to use the bathroom. Then I just walked back up the stairs and went to sleep." He's like, I wake up the next day and he goes, I was so out of it, I didn't even realize. Like, a few hours later, I wake up and my gun's on the counter of the bath. He's like, the heck is my gun doing there? He's like, oh yeah, I saw Goat Man last. So, but there's so much weird stuff going on all the time. It's scary. Like you don't know. Like you really don't know. Folks, I'm going to do a show about the Goat Man, and I'm going to probably drop it on one of the podcast episodes, but I'll give you an encounter story and then I'll get into the Dog Man thing. I had one, this guy and his daughter were walking, they were hiking, and they were up near Vail, Vail's way up there. What is the elevation of Vail? Look that up. You never did give me the answer to the last thing I asked you to look up.
Which was?
I can't even remember because you didn't tell me.
Because I thought it was the St. Benedict prayer, and then someone posted it.
Something else I asked you to look up. Like, you'll look up stuff and then not tell me. I don't know what's going on. But, no. Hold on one second.
Vail, Oregon?
No, Vail, Colorado.
Ooh. 8150.
Vail, Colorado's 81,000 feet?
81,050 feet above sea level at the base of the mountain.
Wow.
Over 11,000 at the top of the mountain.
Wait, 11,000 feet at the top of the mountain?
Mm-hmm.
But it's only 81, but it's 81,000.
From the base of the mountain. It says at 8150 feet above sea level at the base of the mountain and over 11,000 at the top.
Somebody said, what makes you think it is a goat man? Reliable peeps. Oh, I get what you're saying. That one guy is asking, and that's literally what he calls himself. That one guy. The descriptions are completely, it's goat man. There's no mistaking it. It's not. I got a story recently from a police officer too up there who, and this is going to sound crazy. I would, you know what? I don't know if he'd come on the show. I could ask him right now. Maybe he'd be willing to come on and talk about it. Can only, ask, right? Doesn't matter. Can only say no. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this story happened back in 2006. And I don't have a phone number for this guy. I am going to get in touch with that dude, though, because it's a very interesting story. He was a police officer and had an encounter with one of these things. Somebody says, how common are Wendigo encounters? I mean, what is a Wendigo? Is a Wendigo a rake? Or what is a Wendigo? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you listen to a couple of different people talk about it, they act like it's happening every day, like all the time. It's like, I mean, for my money, the Wendigo person that you need to talk to is Chad Lewis, which he will be doing a Wendigo presentation at my conference. So if you come to the conference, guys, then, So anyway, the conference, we don't have the link up there, but if you go to Eventbrite page, go to Eventbrite, Paranormal Roundtable presents second annual Dogman Cryptid Conference. Get your tickets. We still got some VIP tickets left. We don't have a whole bunch of VIP left, but we do have some. We still got quite a few regular tickets left, though. So, but the VIP are going.
Oh, I was confused.
So, anyways, what we have happening with this these accounts, it's really weird. It's like there were a couple that were given to me, and they were told to a friend of mine, basically somebody that I know up there, and then that person gave me, hey, check out this person. And when I talked to that person, they said, hey, there was another person that had an encounter. I got a Bigfoot or two Bigfoot encounters and a Dogman encounter out of that whole thing. Definitely different than what this other thing was, this Goat Man. Anyway, this guy and his daughter were hiking, and they were way up there. Like they weren't like at the top of the mountain. They were at the base. And what happened was they were just kind of walking around and they picking up rocks and throwing them. And one of these creatures like paralleled them. And it was kind of hunched down. And the daughter, she's not a little kid. She's like 13, but she's not a grown up by any means. She's not like a little child, let's put it that way. She's a teenager.
Preteen?
No, she's 13. She's
Oh.
a teenager. But, you know, a teenager is not going to be like, if it was a little kid, you might could go, oh, they're imagining something. But the 13-year-old's not, I don't think a
She has
13-year-old.
her faculties enough to understand.
Yeah, she wasn't like a little kid where she's imagining some goat man or whatever. You know, that's what I was getting at. But she looks over and she says, you know, and her dad at first ignored her. And and that's why it's important to tell you, you know, because he's like, when she was little, she had a very vivid imagination. And get this is a really weird part of it. When she was little, she would draw pictures and talk about a goat man type creature. She would draw, and is it called anthropomorphic? What's it called when you use animals?
I think it's anthropomorphize
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, look the word up to make sure I'm saying it. I'm so tired and out of it today, folks. I am dead right now. SKM, thank you for that donation. Jordan Cogburn, Stephen Rezar, thank you. Madeline Chap, thank you for those donations. They're not expected, but they are greatly appreciated. We're here on Sunday trying to do this.
That's when you put human characteristics
It's
onto an animal.
anthropomorphic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure I said it correctly. I've said it on the show before, but today as my brain's not working, and then dealing with this, you know, technical stuff for an hour of mess. Anthropomorphic, but she would draw these creatures, and one of them was a wolf-like creature, and then one of them was like this goat man-like creature, and they were like friends. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but one looked like a giant bunny rabbit too, so I don't know. But he thought it was interesting because then she's like, Dad, look, there's like this goat-looking thing, you know, on the side of the trail. It's hiding behind some trees, some fallen trees. And he was like, he looks and he's like, I don't see it. And she's like, it's right there, look, you know. And so eventually, like as they moved, he just kept talking and thought, you know, maybe she's still young, maybe she's still imagining, yeah. And then she's like, there it is again. And then he heard the twig snap. And then he turns and he looks and he sees this thing to the right. And he could tell that it really was a goat-like creature on two legs. And he said it was white. Like it was like pale white. Like you could see that it was, you know, it wasn't.
It stood out.
Yeah, it stood out, you know. And he said that this thing had like pinkish reddish eyes. And he's like, dude, we were sitting there staring at it and it stared at us and it just stood there and it had something in its hand, which is very interesting. You know, it intrigues me. A lot of these goat man stories, they have, like, I got one that was really brutal. It was bad. It was like a goat man had used a knife to kill someone. And I'm pretty sure I heard that on another person's channel. And so I just politely declined to use that one. Because it involved, you know, this thing, you know, using a weapon.
It's a bit graphic.
Yeah, and so I didn't want to talk about it. And it was talking about somebody going missing. And then it was just like, whatever, dude, I don't know. I just was like, I'm not going to get into that. It was on, I think it was on another person's channel. And they sent it to me. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that one. But anyways, this creature was holding something in its hand and they couldn't see what it was. And it wasn't a piece of wood. It was something like a hammer or something in its hand. And they you know, it wasn't very large. It was slightly built, but it had big legs. You could see goat-like legs, a man's body, like, but it was pale, like, you know, and with just like a little bit of fur on it. And then on the top of its head, and it had a goat-like head with horns. Now, you get two different kinds of goat man. You get the kind that look like a satyr, typically.
Human face with little horns.
With little horns, yeah. And the horns, you know, I don't think I've really heard a satyr without horns, with just the legs. But I will tell you another story that's gonna intrigue you. when it comes to this. Okay, and I'm not going to get into all of them today because I got but this guy and his daughter, they were looking at this creature, and he goes, "We must have stood there for 2 solid minutes." And then somebody coming up, they could hear people walking up, and they turned and they looked and they saw the people, and then this creature looked and saw the people and then just turned and ran. So I asked about a tail. He said he didn't see a tail, but it had goat-like legs. And he said, dude, I would have thought it was a person in a costume, but why would a person in a costume with that good of a, costume be, with all that makeup and everything in the middle of nowhere, just sitting there in the woods waiting, at whatever, 80,000, whatever the thousands of feet it is above sea level to scare somebody, Now I got another one near, and here's another place that it just keeps coming up over and over. It's Flagstaff, Arizona. I don't know why Flagstaff and Sedona got to be so damn weird, but they are. I mean, they are.
Cryptid havens.
Yeah, you get some really weird story. And then New Mexico, I would say Santa Fe is just every time I hear I was in New Mexico, what, Santa Fe, you had a UFO alien, yes, okay. Automatically, the Navajo reservation, you saw Skinwalker. I mean, you just know it. And New Mexico is just full of weirdness, dude. But I'll say this. I really think that Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and New Mexico, I'd say those 5 states right there have some of the weirdest crap. And what's really crazy about it is that they're all right here together. Those are all the states that neighbor us, as a Texan.
Mm-hmm. They border us.
And you get so many weird stories, like when me and Lyle were in Arkansas and he was pointing out all those different, and I was like, dude, why, there's so much weirdness out there in that area of Arkansas. And then New Mexico is just full of stuff.
And it's diverse stuff too. It's
a lot of weird, chupacabra. And then you get ghosts and then Flagstaff, Arizona. I don't know what the hell y'all are doing out there. Okay. Dial it back. All right. Because I got a file now on Flagstaff. I just went in there. I had 19 reports of different types of things. A lot of ghost stuff, and of course I've told a few of those already on the show. But for whatever reason, Flagstaff has decided to be just a really weird place. Another place is Ruidoso, New Mexico. I get a lot of weird stuff out of there near the end of the mountain gods. And then what do you call that? It's 60-something miles from Roswell. I forgot the name of the little areas, the little reservation there. The Mescalero Reservation. And I get weird stories out of there. I got a bear man report out of there the other day. And somebody had said something about, I saw a bear turn into a man. And I'm like, okay, explain. And then this person went on to tell me it wasn't a shapeshifter story. I kind of got excited. I was like, oh, it's a shapeshifter, but it wasn't. It was just something that was bear-like that stood up and started moving around like a man. And then I was like, you, sir, are a liar. And I will never want you emailing me again until you get a better story.
You con artist.
You bear fraud. It's unbearable to hear you talking about that, dude.
Thank you, SKM and
just can't bear it.
Guy Man Dude for those super chat donations.
I just got to grin and bear it. Okay, that's it. I'm just, sleep with my teddy bear tonight. I'm like, all right. We get it. Let me get this thing. It keeps flopping around over here. What the heck is this thing doing? What are you doing, microphone? Are you trying to mess with me? I thought we were getting new mics. I thought we ordered new mics or something. Like, what is Anthony doing?
Being sick.
He's taking our he's our treasurer. He's taking our money and he's investing it in Shasta.
That's right, Snickle Fritz. It was Man Bear Pig.
These are, like I said before, I'm not getting paid for this. I got sponsors. This ain't it. Prebiotic soda. Speaking of which, my sponsor, one of them, Fisher and Sons Roofing. Check them out. Check out Fisher and Sons Roofing. It's his anniversary this week, Larry. And so I got to give him a shout out. So if you have any roofing problems because of all the hail that's been going on, hit him up, or you can hit me up, and I'll get you in touch with Larry. And he can fix your roof. He does a really good
Larry's
job.
a very close friend of the show. And
He does a good job. Stands behind his work. So I just think it's weird that you get these encounters. What these people saw when they were walking around, that area between Frisco and Vail, you get some weird stuff. Yeah. I've gotten some weird stuff out of Blackhawk, Estes Park, Boulder. It gets weird. I mean, there's some weird stuff out of Colorado Springs even. Heard some really weird stuff out of that area. DJ Tyler Radio says, my family's from New Mexico, and Grandma told a story about a lot of witch women in La Llorona. She said she's seen women she knew turn into owls. Yeah. La Chusa. It's very common. Very common. One of the things that I think is very, very strange to me is when you get these reports of Goatman in the same area, maybe not like right exactly in the same exact spot, but you get them close to each other, and the descriptions don't change. It's not like the person's like, oh, that person saw something totally different. It's almost like, it's the same creature. It's got to be. But this is kind of weird. And thank you, Matt, for that donation. Yeah. If you guys want your state to be featured on a whatever, just throw me $50 and I'm on it. I'm joking, folks. I'm joking. But you can throw $50 if you need to. But it's really weird because these stories, it seemed like every Goatman story I got, I can tell you right now, it's not the same creature. It's just not. And I went over this with David Weatherly. We were talking about this one day, and it was just, I've talked about it with Ken and Barton, and I talked about it with Christopher Jordan. I mean, and all these different podcasters and researchers I'm friends with. Why is that? I mean, what's going on? Like, why do we get reports, of like one area will have a flap or something, and you'll get the reports from it, and they're all the same. You know what I mean? Like, you can say, hey, like what happened in 1990 in Taylor. Like I put in my book like multiple people's encounters from that area, and then you go back and you read them all, and you're thinking, this is probably the same critter. I mean, it really, or critters, they all seem to have the same like description and whatever. But then you go and you're looking at this Colorado thing, and you're going like, gosh, one is black with fur. It looks like a goat head. One looks like a freaking satyr. The other one is white with pink eyes. And the other one's just white with grayish legs. This one didn't have grayish legs. Was just white fur, like almost like a lamb, Weird. I mean, it's really weird. It's like, it's not, I can't get like you know what? There's a couple reports that were very similar, but for the most part, the rest of them are just like, what the heck am I dealing with here? You could have easily thrown each one of them into a one-off, except that they were all from the same state. And then you're going like, what the heck's going on here? So I don't know. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you, this is weird. Okay, so we were talking about earlier when I was talking about monsters fighting one another. What was it I said? I can't remember how I worded it. I was going to lead into something there, and then it just totally lyrical, jazzy. When my grandma was in high school in a res in northern Wisconsin, we were always told about when a goat man showed up to one of her dances and mesmerized all the women and danced with them all. Yes. Is she Chippewa or Menominee? I have a large audience from the Native American community. I'm very proud of that. Because I've been told by multiple Native Americans from many different tribes that I basically that they tell me that I'm the closest to any of the podcasters or authors or whatever of getting what they believe, about Bigfoot and Dogman and all these other creatures, that I'm getting the closest to what they actually believe. The stories that they were raised up with. Maybe it's because I'm part native too. I don't know. And everybody goes around saying they're native now. It's like everybody's Cherokee. Everybody's Cherokee now. I'm not, but like there's like if you were to just, go by however many people tell you they're Cherokee, I'd say there are 8.8 million Cherokee in this country. For real. Like every time I talk to a straight up white person, they're like, well, I'm not really white. I'm actually Cherokee. And you're like, wow, really? Because you are sunburned. So yes, you're sunburned. Yeah, your skin is sort of a reddish hue. Don't know if that's Cherokee though. I don't know if that really counts. It looks just like maybe your freckles.
I think you
just
rubbed
burned
up
off of your body because you're so white. And you kind of wonder. Okay, Lyrical Jazz says Chippewa. Yeah. So it's really weird. Like when you start to go down, like I said, the rabbit hole with these encounters, you get these crazy stories that come out, and you're like, okay, that makes sense because it was close to a reservation, right? And so you get stories about these werewolf-looking creatures, which obviously to the natives are skinwalkers.
Mm-hmm.
But some natives, not all, will tell you that a skinwalker can also be a Bigfoot, or that's what they are. And then someone will tell you that the Bigfoot is just like a furry. I only know really of one tribe, and every aper in the country uses that. And I'm not even going to get into it. I don't want to start a war with the apers because they are the way they are. That's the old guard, and they're trying to hang on. They want to hang on to what they have, and that's how they make their bread and butter. And I got several friends that are apers, and I'm not trying to offend people. But, sometimes people take swipes at me, I think Nick Valenti took kind of a friendly swipe at me the other day when he knew I was watching him on Jessica's show. And he said something about boots on the ground. And I'm like, Nick, I'm not even talking about Nick. Nick actually does it. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about that goes on expeditions and stuff. I'm talking about these people that go in their backyard, like, they're here in Austin. I'm going to go out to Plum Creek, take a video. All right, that could be a dog man down there. I don't know. I thought I heard it go. And so, that little bit of, that was enough to convince me we were surrounded by dogmen. That's what I'm talking about, dude. I'm not talking about, and I'm going to talk about the Nick Valentis. Like he said something, boots on the ground. So I assume he probably watches my show because a lot of people in the community do, or the community. It's kind of like mine is the community clubhouse or whatever. But I was in Jessica's chat the other night, and it was like what day was that? No, that was last night. Was that last night? I don't know. Look up when her show was on. She did one on, and Jeremiah Fountain was on. Folks, you got to check it out. It was pretty good because it was about a reptilian, right? It was like a reptilian doing something. Just check it out. And so he said something about boots on the ground, but I can't remember exactly how he said it or worded it. And I know he was taking a jab at me there, but it's friendly with me and him. But there are some people, who go out and they talk about boots on the ground, and that's just completely ridiculous. And what was that show we were talking about? Oh no, I don't even want to get into that. That's not, because we can't talk. That's a private conversation with somebody. It would be bad if we talked about. See, that's why I need to be on some. Is it Rumble? Is it Rumble that you can get on? You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, Rumble is definitely one.
Oh my gosh. Okay, then I need to make a Rumble account
speech.
because then I could just talk mad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't have to censor ourselves.
Mad. But yeah, because I could say a lot of stuff, dude. But anyway, we were talking about TV shows with Christopher Jordan off air, but then we were talking about him on the air. We were talking about Sopranos, The Shield. Yeah. What was the other one you named?
Walking Dead is the one I said.
Yeah,
but
but there was another one. I was like, I don't watch that one. I can't remember
Game
which
of
one.
Thrones.
Game of Thrones, and then there was God, there was another one
was
that I
the one?
liked.
Shield.
And if you haven't watched Disenchantment, check that one. It's a little cartoon.
Oh,
one. Rome. Disenchantment's really good.
Yeah.
Rumble or Twitch? I think Anthony said Twitch was hard.
Twitch is horrible. I hate
Yeah.
Twitch.
So don't do Twitch. But yeah, Rumble, I can get on there. I'm gonna have to make an account. I'm gonna have to say some stuff because that way you can, you can get on there and hear me say some things that you won't hear me say on here because I'm not allowed to. I'm just not. Like I don't even know. Talking about presidents and former presidents and
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we might have already pushed it.
we're talking about what a show it is. So that I could tell you all kinds of stuff. People want to know who's what, I'll tell you. We could get into the history of the entire world on there, and I could pull no punches. But yeah, the story that we're getting though with these goat men, if they weren't so close together, in the last like 6 weeks, I would think that this is, they would all just go into one-off files. It's so weird. But what could make, and I'm going to be honest, it would be stretching it to say Colorado's a pretty big state. It's not humongous, but it's pretty big. If you were to say you're going all the way from the north to Estes Park, or maybe Fort Collins, one of the reports I got, and then you're going from Fort Collins all the way down, or up to, I guess, down and then back up to Vail. I mean, that's kind of a stretch. That's a good hike. So those are you would have you'd be kind of stretching it to try to get that to make the connection there. You're like, but it isn't a coincidence that there's 6. I mean, different weeks worth of reports. Excuse me, and then you're looking at like it's a mountain range. All kinds of stuff can live inside of mountains. And if you're talking about a mountain goat, and it's a goat, humanoid creature, I mean, that makes sense. I got a story. This one was really crazy. And it was like, somebody gave me this one like just a few days ago. And I thought, man, this one's too crazy. It's not going to make it in the book. I don't have time. The book's got a deadline. We got to finish it up by the middle of July. And I've already got my last 4 witnesses lined up. But this one was crazy. This guy sent me this story, and I'll tell it on the live because I might just tell you an abbreviated version and then go tell it on the. Because for whatever reason, people would just much rather just go jump on the podcast, and they miss a ton of content and a ton of stories that we do here and the interaction, But says Vault is sick. Oh, well, prayers for Vault, folks. Say a prayer for Vault. He's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy. But whenever you get these reports, I would say take them with a grain of salt. Anytime you get these weird reports, whatever. But this one really intrigued me, and it was when this person began to do some describing of what they saw. This is not a person who is well versed in the universe of
the cryptid universe.
Yeah. They're not paying attention to my show. They're not watching all these other people's shows. They're not reading David Weatherly's books. They're not doing any of that. You know what I mean? This is a person who just saw what they saw. They handed the story over to a friend of mine. And then that person gave me the story. And I did not get to speak to this person, but the story was written in very good in depth and detail. It comes from a guy named Russ. And what Russ told Corey, the guy that gave me the story, and I may have talked about Brad and Corey before because they were instrumental in helping us do an investigation out at Hernandez Ranch. Those guys got balls. They actually went out there at night and sat up and got pretty spooked. I mean, there was some stuff. But one of the things that I was told about this encounter, it was a dogman encounter, if you want to call it that, was that there was some people that were out camping. What's wrong? Go check. Hold on one second, folks. Okay. All right, so work stuff, always interfering in work stuff. So what ended up happening was they were camping. They were at a campsite, and this happened. And the locals believe that this is what they call the Rougarou. And we talked a little bit about the Rougarou, like we just touched on it, just that the fact that Christopher Jordan's from Louisiana, and the Rougarou is a werewolf type creature, and these people were camping out. The weird thing was that they were out near Honey Island. They were trying to go and find the Honey Island swamp monster, but they turned out they weren't in the right place because they're not from there. And in fact, the individual that was a part of the little expedition or whatever was with two foreign people who did not speak really good English. And the people that took them out there dropped them off at a place that was not correct. And in all sincerity, they probably could have been hurt by, just being out in the wrong place, not being familiar with the swamp. But anyway, they got this happened, like the story, I just got it recently, but this happened a few years ago. And so they went out there and they were going to be walking around this area on their own. And they wanted to spend 2 days out there. So their tour guide, I don't want to say this person's probably a con artist, really, was supposed to go back and pick them up. That didn't happen. Okay. They wanted to be out there for a day and a half, and he left them out there for like 2.5 days. So if you can imagine this, you're out there and something out in the swamp of Louisiana begins to stalk you. What they saw wading through knee-deep water at one point looked like a werewolf. A straight up werewolf. It had brownish, would look like brown fur, but it was gray in some spots. And I did not get to ask the questions and go back and say, well, did you think it was because it was older? No, all I did was read the report. And when you get those, you can't do much with it, but just tell the story. So I wasn't able to correspond email-wise with this person. Somebody says Cajun-wise, doesn't it start with an L from origin? Lougarou, yeah, Rougarou. Yeah, it is technically, Lougarou. But because it's loop, like loup-garou. That's what that means. Like loup-garou, yeah. So anyway, they saw this thing, and of course in Louisiana, there's legends of these loup-garou. Now, I'm of the opinion that the Honey Island swamp monster is actually a Bigfoot. It really is. It's not a werewolf. Besides that, they weren't there at the right location, which they found out later. I think Dana Holyfield has done a lot of good work on the Honey Island swamp monsters. If you want to know anything about it, Harlan, Tony's not in here to look it up for me, but his name is Harlan. Oh gosh, if somebody in the audience could help me out. Her grandfather. He has the 30 millimeter. I can't think for nothing today. Is it 38 millimeter? I don't know which millimeter film it is, whatever. But anyway, he's got some very compelling footage of what looks like a Bigfoot type creature. And some people say it has 3 toes. This is something distinctly different from the loup-garou. What these people saw, one of the people that was there, when they went back, they went and did a ton of research when they got back to civilization. and found out that this creature is known to inhabit that area of the swamp where they were at. And they weren't on Honey Island Swamp. 35 millimeter. Thank you. My gosh. I am not, folks, my brain is just fried today. I'm so tired. I've been in the heat for days, and I'm just not, and I didn't feel like fixing my hair, so I just put a hat on, and I'm just whatever, dude. I'm not even wearing shoes, I'm just sitting here, And so Harlan Ford, okay. Oh my gosh, can't think of nothing. And so this creature was, and then it didn't really pay attention to them. It just kind of walked back out of the water. And there's gators everywhere. Now, this thing was huge. It was about 7 foot tall, but it was big, very wide, broad chested. It didn't look like something that was going to bother them. So they were like, okay, but talk about the rest of the night, just sitting there by the fire going like, okay, and they have no idea where they're at. So they start walking, up into this area where they're supposed to be able to, and the landmarks aren't correct. Nothing's the way it's supposed to be. They figured it out wandering around blind the day before. They were smart enough to mark trees. And so they were able to get back around in a loop. No pun intended, loop guru. And drink water now, Josh. Okay. Water. Probably a good idea. Wow. Now I'm like Popeye. Now I could think completely, just boom. Dude, you know what? I know all the mysteries of the universe. Just ask me a question. I can tell you right now. Water. Eddie, I'm just messing with you, man. I'm not bagging it. Thank you for that. You cared enough to tell me to drink water. No, dude, it's like they were wandering around. This is the first time I've heard of people doing some crap like this where it happened in Wisconsin too by some con artist who I don't want to say their names because they're sue happy. But yeah, they're little jerks, whatever. But and believe me, I can sue you right back. I don't really care, but I don't feel like dealing with that. I got enough on my plate. What happened was they wandered around and they came back to the meeting spot where they were. So they just decided to bed down and hang out there. The second night they were out there, after the first day when they first saw this werewolf-looking creature, they hear this loud, crashing, breaking sound. It sounded just crazy, like there was this fight going on. It was just insane. And this is really weird. And it was something that I wanted to get into at some point, but I did not really know how to broach the subject without just sounding completely off my rocker. And I thought maybe it was just a one-off. And then I got a second report. Let's see. Eight months later, 8 months from the first report. It would be 8 months. It was last year. And so when Barton was down, I think I went over it with Barton. Me and him kind of talked about it. We went over some accounts. And I said, what do you think of that? He's like, it's crazy. I'm like, yeah, waiting to see if I get another one. And I got one like right around the time when he was here. I ended up with one in my email. And then now I got this one. What ended up happening was these people encountered what I can only describe as a feral swamp lizard type creature. And it just kind of hung around, going in and out of the water from one side to the other and swimming kind of like a gator. And so they didn't see Bigfoot. They didn't see the Honey Island swamp monster, but they saw what looked like the Lugaroo. And then the next night they saw this reptilian-looking creature. Now, what I'm going to tell you is that this is not unheard of. I have reports of these things fighting each other. I have reports of these things, these reptilians of different types fighting different types of Bigfoot, fighting each other, fighting with rakes, fighting with dogman. You got all these weird stories, whatever. A couple of these I'm saving because I want to go on location when I try to get this docuseries, if I could ever bring it to fruition. But one thing at a time. I got to get the books done first. Then I can go out and maybe we can figure out, like maybe talk to some of the witnesses who witnessed these creatures within the same vicinity. Now, I'm not saying that these two creatures were out there duking it out. I'm just saying that it sounded like there was something fighting, and then the next day they see this creature because they heard a ferocious growling, barking sound like a canid fighting with something that had a very loud vocals of like how a gator sounds, and they heard like splashing and whatever. Doesn't mean it's just reptile. Could have been anything. Could have been a gator fighting with a dog. I don't know. Could have been a gator fighting the dog man. The Luguru. Or maybe it wasn't any of that. I don't know. But when you get enough of these stories, now, like I said, I have 2 other reports in the same swamps. A guy was checking trot lines and doing all kinds of stuff. This is in Louisiana, but it wasn't in the South. It was in the North. And then there was another guy that was down in the South, down in the bayou. And he lives, I think, like near Slidell or something like that. But anyway, he gave me this story where he was down there in the swamp. And he was actually within about 4 or 5 feet of one of these reptile-looking, and I want to call them reptilians because then that gives you, that's like a connotation of like, that they're the underground hive reptile alien creatures. That's not what we're talking about here. This is more like, Lyle Blackburn's The Lizard Man book, where he goes into the lizard man. And like I said today, my brain is not working. I believe it's South Carolina. Look it up, Tony. Look up the lizard man. I think it's South Carolina. If anybody in the chat can tell me, my mind is just does not want to function today. But what I'm trying to tell you though is that these encounters are very weird. And I know I'm probably all over the place, folks. My mind's just not working good. Dealing with stuff for an hour, trying to fight with this, just zaps you. I've been out in the heat all day.
South Carolina. It's
Bishopville, South Carolina. Yeah, Maynard just said it. Yeah, Bishopville. I should know that. I've read the book. But when you go over these reports and then you go back and you try to find the threads, which I do, there it was. And I was like, dude, holy crap. One was in Gainesville, Florida, right outside of Gainesville. Oh, no, there were 2 in Florida. There was another one in Tampa Bay. And you know what? I'm going to write those down because when I get home, I'm going to look those up and we're going to talk about those. We are going to go over those right now. I mean, not now, but. So, and I'm going to make the connection here in a minute. I'm going to tell you. There's a Tampa one, too. The Tampa one was really interesting. Somebody saw this, like, reptilian-looking creature swimming in the water in the bay. Literally, because Tampa is Tampa Bay. And they saw this creature, like, swimming in the water. The interesting thing is that there was a dogman report of literally this dogman, like, chasing somebody and their dog as they were jogging, like, within a mile of that sighting. Now, there again, these creatures aren't duking it out, but it's interesting, to say the least. And then there was one in Gainesville. And then speaking of Florida, man, I could do a whole thing on Florida because we have another report that was involved a haunting, and then this woman was driving from her haunted location in Florida to another spin that she sees in Tallahassee. And she sees, because she drove from almost one end of the state to the other, and she's a dog man. There's more to it, but that was a very odd story.
And Florida's crazy too because the people are crazy, so you can't imagine what the cryptids would be like.
Yeah, and you got the skunk ape.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're just sitting there like, you know.
Josh is gonna go get a drink of water. I'll answer some questions that you guys have. Okay, he's gonna do something real quick. You guys got any questions that you guys want answered? Elle says, "Thank you, Josh. I received my swag bag. Love it. The little cowboy boot is cute." Yeah, we try to send little knickknacks from Texas, so you guys get a little bit of Texas from where you guys are at. Swamps ain't for everyone, is it? Indeed. The humidity here in Texas is annoying to deal with, so I can't imagine having to deal with that swamp humidity. Goatman has to be the scariest by far of the cryptids, in my opinion. I don't know, man. Rakes look so freaky to me. At least I can look at a goat man and see like, oh, that's a goat and a man. But like, what? You're never gonna see a creature like a rake. It just feels like something that shouldn't exist. Seeing things like this likely depends partly on where you are. Well, there's definitely conclaves of
All right, I put
different
some
creatures.
water on my face. Had to put some water on my face, man. It's just
Clear it up.
Yeah, trying to clear the cobwebs, or what do you call it? I don't know. I can't think straight at all. I can't remember things. It's like I'm not even that tired. I mean, I was tired. I'm not gonna lie, but I just got so stressed out. I got so much stress going on, folks. Just need some prayers. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got a lot of stress going on. No, what's crazy though, we got a ton of Dogman stories, ton of reports. I get them all mixed up because there's so many of them. But when you take into account how many times, and I'm going by the recent, I haven't even gone back into the archives. And Tony, the archives are huge. It's
an archive, definitely.
It's the Akashic Records, dude. And I get reports all the time, but I don't mind. Keep them coming. The more, the better, But one thing that I noticed is that, just in the last year, 4 now, I guess it would be 4 altogether, reports of a werewolf-looking creature within a day of seeing a reptilian-looking creature near water. The other one happened, the other 2 happened in Louisiana. There were 3 in Louisiana and 2 in Florida. And they all involved like a swampy reptilian-looking creature, but I got one. Somebody says my blood pressure. Yeah, I checked it before I left the house. I took medication earlier today. I am actually super relaxed. I'm just tired.
A little too relaxed, maybe.
Too relaxed, yeah. But I just, I had a lot to do today. And, my wife is actually working on something for the show, which is going to be huge.
I think you guys are like, I've caught little snippets of it, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah, she was talking to the patent attorney. And so I'm going like, uh-oh, it's getting serious now.
Mm-hmm. She's got a lot of ideas.
She's going to try and steal everything. I know. I'm kidding, Nell. I love you. She pays me to say that. So anyway, it says here, thank you for answering, Josh, about your blood pressure. Thank you, Penny, for caring. That's what separates us from everyone else. That and the fact that I go like this. Really cool. I don't know how or when I learned to do that, but it looks really cool, and it is one of my many talents. I actually put that on my resume on a job that I didn't want.
Well, it doesn't matter, because as soon as they saw that, they would have want you. So
that's actually a true story. I actually did.
My
dad's friend was going to hire me, and I didn't want to work for him. And my dad's a butthole. I've said that before on this show. He really is. And so I ended up going in there, and the guy's like, "Well, what it says here? You have a wrist. You have ability to move your hand and wrist really quick." But I was being facetious.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah. And then I didn't have the heart to like
Do it.
basically do something really rude to the guy because he turned out to be a nice guy and he wasn't like my dad. And I go, oh yeah, I can do this. And I went like this with my hand, you know. And he started laughing. Then he wanted to hire me. And then I'm like, ugh. I don't want to do this job because I'm a Gen Xer and we are all about status. And I can't go back and tell my friends that I'm putting up drywall. You know, you got to, you know, so you have to lie when you see them, you know, like, you're working at this club? This club? The club? No, dude.
Construction.
I own my own club. And they're like, well, it says Roxy on your shirt and you're standing in front of the Roxy. I'm like, that club. That's the club that I do actually own now. Yes, yeah. And you got to go in there and run, tell the owner, hey, man, I just lied to some people I went to high school with. Can I please be the owner? And he's like, dude, get the heck away from me. And I'm like, good grief. They gotta go.
You don't even work here. You're
So,
just a
you know,
fan.
I had to go out there and just tell him the honest truth. I'm like, look, dude, that man over there, he's a little crazy and says he owns the club. He's from like Lebanon or something. But anyway, I took mercy on the guy and I let him stay in my basement. And they're like, you have a basement here? And I'm like, mm-hmm. Even though Texas doesn't have them. Yeah, I dug a tunnel out for him, and he stays there. It's a long story. It's this whole crazy thing. Anyway, welcome to my club that I own because I'm a Gen Xer and I got to look cool. But that's our sin. That it really is. Like, you know, everybody's always talking about the boomers and the millennials, and they both suck, yes. But we do too. I mean, the Gen Xers are all about status, and it's all about keeping up with the Joneses, and it's all about, you know, they're envious and the most jealous.
Yeah.
I got friends, I love them to death, but they're straight up haters, man. They're like, you don't need to have a QX80. I was like, well, I didn't want it, but my badass Titan Diesel Platinum XD crapped out on me, so now I got to have this piece of crap. And then they're like, oh, man, why do you need to own all that? And I'm like, because I can. I'm in debt up to my eyeballs, and I'm happy. You know? In fact, I get really angry when I see somebody holding a sign and all happy jumping around on the street corner. And I'm like, dude, you need to get in line and go into debt like the rest of us.
It's nothing more infuriating than seeing someone enjoy
being homeless. You're like, you should be completely upset that your lot in life is that, but you're not. And I am not happy as you. Problem being, it's called Visa card. So you need to get in line. You work for food. I work for MasterCard to pay it off. But that's my rant. You know, that's it. I'm not going to, no more. We're done. Done. Okay. So anyway, what happened was I got these stories. So I started going down the rabbit hole. And like I said, when I get home tonight, folks, I got some homework to do. I got to get ready so I can do this correctly next week. I didn't realize how many reports we were getting that involve these two together. Now, we have talked about these computer companies, these big companies. Can't say their names, but you probably can guess. You know, they put out a new phone. You know what I'm talking about? Anyway, these companies that shall remain nameless, they oftentimes had activity of reptilians, like the actual reptilians with people's faces changed, stuff like that. And then they're seen simultaneously with werewolves roaming around in their campuses at the same time. And it's weird because it coincides with people showing up from Europe or Asia, you know, or even South America. They'll have like the big shots from those continents come, and then they'll be like weird stuff happens. What's really crazy though, like this lizard man type creature that's popped up a few times and has had some appearances like in and around areas where Dogman was seen. Now this guy that I talked to, he's from Slidell. He had some weird, like just a weird story. He said, you know, my brother saw a werewolf, you know. And I said, you mean a Lugaroo? He goes, yeah, Lugaroo, whatever, you know, that's what they call it. But he said he was driving home from work one night, and this is when he was working in New Orleans. And he said that, dude, right on the outskirts of New Orleans, this thing runs across the road, kind of like loping across, his exact words. like it, loped because that. Well, I hate to say it. I use it words. I said, would you just say that it loped? Because I don't want to be lying here, and he said, yeah, like that's a good word for it. It kind of loped across. Okay, good. So my word, but he used it. It loped across the road, stood up on its hind legs, turned and looked over its shoulder at him, and then ran into the woods or the swamp. And he was like, what the heck did I just see? What was that? And this was outside of New Orleans, not in New Orleans or whatever. And he was like, dude, was that a freaking werewolf? And his girlfriend was like, I think so. I think we just saw a werewolf. Well, not far from there, we had a report, of this lizard-like creature. Now, here's a really scary one. Like I would say this one would scare the crap out of me if I was sitting in a boat and I was like gator hunting. These guys were gator hunting.
Which is already terrifying.
It's already scary. Yeah, because some of these, I read about a gator the other day. It was 16 foot, and they found like 12 chickens in its stomach. I'm like, what in the heck is that?
Aren't they pretty much immortal as long as they keep eating?
Yeah, they just keep growing. They live forever. It's like, dude, it's nuts, man. And so, and around that area too, they saw this huge snapping turtle. It was like 8 foot, whatever. And I think we talked about that with Max Hawthorne on the show the other day. But this thing, imagine you're sitting in a boat, and these aren't really big boats. I don't know what they're called, but they're like 2 or 3 man boats. They're not, and one of them has a gun, and he just shoots when he catches one up to the boat, they shoot him, and then it's, but they eat them. It's not like they're killing them just to be killing them. And they're gator hunters. And this thing just explodes out of the water like, and it's just a straight up 6.5 foot tall, well built in the upper body and in the quads, but everywhere else it was kind of thin, and it was like unbelievable how it exploded up out of the water, and it was huge. Like they said, it was a huge upper body.
How far away from the boat?
Like 3-4 feet.
Oh man!
And the boat kind of went like that. And imagine being dumped in the water with all them gators and that thing. And they're sitting there. So the first thing that the guy with the gun does is he starts shooting it. Then it just kind of jumps back into the water like splashes. They see a tail whip around, and then it just disappears. This was a very quick encounter with a humanoidal lizard man. The way they described the muzzle was not gator-like. It was more lizard-like. The head was rounded on top, and the muzzle kind of stuck out at a weird angle, almost to where it came to a squared off point. It had a muzzle like that. And it just kind of was like, and it kind of snapped its teeth. And they don't know if when they had shot maybe into the water that they grazed it or something, because it looked like it might have been bleeding on the left side of its arm. What the heck is that? I mean, it's swimming around in the water with gators, but I mean, Bigfoot does that too, and so does the Lugaroo. They don't really seem to care about the gators. And then when you get down there into the brackish water going into the Gulf, there's a bunch of bull sharks and a bunch of gators, but you get a ton of reports of stuff. And I got one of a Bigfoot just swimming right out into the middle of the water, just did not care. Bull sharks and gators just, be damned. It was going to swim across that tributary. It did not give a crap.
Well, I wouldn't want to be the gator that bites a Bigfoot. It gets tossed 20 feet.
I mean, how big of a gator, though? I mean, I was reading a book about the Solomon Islands where they have these Sasquatch people looking creatures, and they're like, one of them was like 9 foot tall. But this was a croc, and a big old croc had bitten it, and it was laying on the shore dying. It's a really crazy book. It's called Solomon Island Mysteries. Check it out. But, this thing explodes up out of the water, and I got a description. It was green. I mean, it was green. It was just, that's all they could say, was just like green. And then it had like light spike underneath its belly, was like white, like a gator's, So I asked these guys, I messaged with the one guy, and then I said, I didn't really talk to the other one. And I said, he goes, dude, it looked like an experiment. That's how he had described it. Like if somebody was tampering with genes, with DNA, and I mean, there's an interesting show out on Netflix. I haven't seen it yet, but Loki was telling me about it yesterday. It's called Clone King, or is it King of Clones, or is it Clone King? I don't know. My brain's not working right today. But yeah, it's really weird. Like it's like Island of Dr. Moreau stuff going on, dude. People
King
are
of
talking
Clones.
King of Clones.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you got people talking about these weird creatures, and I'm gonna tell you right now, think about CERN. Don't forget, that they opened the abyss. And now you're seeing these creatures, and then these dog attacks. How many are these dog attacks? I can't even keep up with it. I know Nick Valenti's been kind of keeping up with it. But if you go back and you look at how many of these attacks have been happening, it's freaking unbelievable.
I mean,
It is unreal.
yeah, you were telling me about an attack that happened. I don't remember exactly when, but you're telling me about how they try to disguise it off as like a deer or something, and you're like, that makes absolutely no sense based on what is being told. There's no way it could have been a deer because deers don't do these specific actions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you said moose, maybe I could believe that, or even elk, but deer, it sounds a bit unlikely.
SKM says, do you guys actually talk to people about these things? Yes, we do. If you're talking to me, yeah. I talk to people all the time. That's what I do. And it says, I try to, let's see where he's got.
Here, you could, if you see right on top of Josh's head, that's his email. If you send him something, he definitely does respond to the best of his abilities. Like we say, we do get a lot, so.
He says, if people have 1,000 or even 100 encounters, doesn't that make it real for you and nothing they refuse to believe? I don't know I know you're not talking about me. I don't have a problem believing. It's just, you just get so many stories. Shauna Cribbs, and I know you're not being funny here, but it is funny. Josh, do you think if Bigfoot took a bath, it would still smell? Yeah. Max Bryant, actually, they're everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones that they tell you about.
Yeah. Yeah, SKM, I agree. Yeah, they're blind. But so this thing explodes up out of the water, and it luckily for them, it just left them alone. It didn't pursue them or try to mess with them. I just thought it was interesting though that right in that same area there was a dogman report, and then this person, their son actually had a dogman that he saw on his way home from work, which I thought was very interesting. So, I mean, it's just when you take these reports and you put them together, why are they in the same vicinity? And I've asked people that too. And I had somebody, speaking of Wisconsin, I had somebody up in northern Wisconsin, actually, and it's funny because somebody from Wisconsin earlier was talking about Wisconsin, and here we are talking about Wisconsin. Wisconsin comes up a lot. It's obviously got a lot going on. I've only been through there once. I need to go back and just spend some time moving around, running around up there. Probably should go now while it's hot as hell down here and we can get away from the heat for a little bit.
Might be smart.
They'll be up there like, it's so hot up here. It's like 82 degrees. Oh, my gosh. I'm like, really? It was 112.
And with the humidity, it felt like 114.
Yeah. It'll be 10 degrees when the winter comes, which will be probably in a few weeks, and then we'll just move straight from 110 to 10. It's just how we roll. That's how we roll here in Texas. If you don't like drastic weather, don't move here, because that's what you'll get.
Unpredictable, drastic
Unpredictable.
weather.
It'll be 100 degrees, and then it rains, and then it'll snow, and that's just Tuesday.
Yep.
So what ends up happening? It was up in Wisconsin, and so I'm reading some of the comments here. So up in Wisconsin, you get these weird reports. I got a few weird reports of dogman getting into encounters with Bigfoot. And I was like, why? And I asked this lady, I said, why do you think that they're in the same vicinity? She doesn't believe there's a connection. Like, it's totally coincidence. And I'm like, you're telling me that you walk outside your house and you go to work and you see a dog man on the side of the road, and a year later you see a Bigfoot in your yard. There's nothing, they have nothing to do with one another. And she said, no, I don't think they're connected at all. And you know what? I thought about it. How many times people say that? We get that. Like, it's like people say that crap, and you're like, dude, I'm not trying to say it's just crap, but I mean, I don't agree with that. There's got to be somewhere or something is going on, and why are these things coming in and out of the same areas?
I mean, it doesn't exist in nature. Lions are extremely territorial. Anything that gets in its vicinity gets attacked.
Yeah, that's why I don't think these things are physical predators like they do. And then you got if someone is an ape or Bigfoot theorist, they will completely discount the Dogman by saying, oh, well, Dogman doesn't exist, so whatever they saw was either a Bigfoot that they mistakenly identified or this, whatever they claim to have seen that was wolf-like, it didn't happen. That didn't happen. And so you get that, and there was one aper in particular that really got my goat. Newsflash, you don't find anything, dude. So quit. You're really starting to get on my nerves. I don't. You've been on my nerves for a long time, but how you can still be relevant, I have no clue. But anyway, I'm not going to get into this person. I made a decision not to talk about people's names, whatever. But this guy tells one of my listeners, that they can go and feed it and be friends with it, and the kids are fine. Yeah. And I said, absolutely not. Do not do that. I was like, you would be making a huge, huge mistake. Because maybe you think this thing is friendly, but I know it's not. And you can't, some of these people, you can't reason with them. I mean, like, they're going to believe what they're going to believe. And if somebody's on TV, then they're going to be like, oh, but that person has a show on TV. That makes them worth about as much as a fresh bucket of hamster vomit. I'm going to tell you that right now. That doesn't do anything. That just means that they're palatable to be, whatever for the networks to put them on there. It doesn't make them an authority on anything. If anything, they're more of an actor. I mean, especially when it's been on for however many years and nothing's happened. Mm-hmm. And so these people will tell witnesses, there's nothing to fear here. There's no danger here. You're perfectly fine. Oh, but I saw this werewolf-looking creature too. That doesn't exist. That's and when you go down the path that I've been down, then you start to see these connections, and you're like, dude, I'm going to tell you right now, folks, and I'm not fear-mongering, and I'm not trying to make you scared, because somebody mentioned on their podcast one day, they were like, oh, well, some of these people just peddle in fear, and they tell stories to make you scared. And their channel's just doing gangbusters, so you can just, they're correct. And it's like, yeah, you're doing awesome, dude. That's why, you got, your neighbor and your mom and your grandma in the chat, and maybe one of your girlfriends.
Not to mention that you do it too. You're just pretending or whatever that you're not. I mean, if you tell stories that are scary, then at some point you're going to be called fear-mongering.
Because if you get one that's going to be terrifying, good for your channel, you're gonna tell it.
Yeah.
I mean, who the hell doesn't?
It's like,
we're up here for educational purposes only. Okay. And yeah, that's great. Or you're a therapist. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Whatever, dude. It doesn't matter. You have to keep people's attention, or you're not going to have a channel. So yeah, you have to have some stuff that gets kind of scary at times. Dinah Russo says, I agree with Josh. I don't trust any of these creatures. Yeah, me neither. It's just, yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
So
said it's not scaring people. It's just warning them.
Warning them. Yeah.
Yep.
Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, this is what I'm going to say. If you have an encounter with a creature on your property, okay, the chances, I believe, that in my opinion, the chances of you seeing another one or having another encounter go up exponentially. Like, I would say 500%. I mean, I'm not joking. And people are going to say, well, Josh Turner up there scaring people. Come on, Wolf, you're trying to scare people. No, I'm not. I'm telling you right now, if you look at the reports, if you've seen UFOs there's a good chance that you'll see another one in your life. This is not me joking around.
No, I mean, it's like they mark you or something. As soon as you witness a cryptid, then at that very moment, you're like, oh, now you're open to everything. Because it's like, it's the same with ghosts. It's like as soon as you start having some ghost activity, we've had stories where like it starts with ghosts and turns into full-on cryptids, turns into Bigfoot or Dogman. So UFOs. I mean, it's like you're entering their world. Or as soon as you gaze at the abyss gazes back at you.
It scares back. The abyss scares back at you. No, the abyss stares back at you. Yeah. I mean, it's like fool me once, fools can't be fooled again. I think that these Dogfoot and Big Man, Corn Pop was a bad dude.
You know what I find interesting though is that first story you told about that, or I don't know if the albino goat man, because.
But do you know he's an albino though?
Well, I mean, pure white with red eyes that's classic traits of albinism. And if it is an albino goat man, wouldn't that be a genetic malfunction or like something that it's not supposed to happen?
Another thing too, it wasn't like super large either. It wasn't like they were telling me this giant hulking creature. It was slightly built, and it was holding something.
It just seems weird to me.
You know what I was thinking about? You know how people go camping and stuff? Mm-hmm. Like maybe it was holding like one of those little hammers to like hammer the spikes. I mean, that's what came to my mind.
Oh, it was recycling. It was picking up all the trash in the forest.
It's like, give a hoot, man. Don't pollute, man. That's my goat impression. I don't know how good it is. Yeah, Maynard W says, "What you see a gator in Florida, you see them everywhere." I saw one in Florida, and I've seen them in Louisiana. It's crazy because Louisiana and Florida are the places where you hear about them, but you get them all along the coast, Mississippi and Alabama. They're there too. You just hear about them more in Florida and Louisiana, because when I was a kid and I was young, I was like, why are there only gators in those states? And then I find out that they're all over East Texas too, man. They said that any body of water in East Texas, typically you have to assume that there's gators in them.
That's horrible.
And I'm like, that's great. And that must be a Mandela effect, because I don't remember that as a kid.
Yeah, I thought it was like strictly Louisiana and Florida. But one thing I think also is that those two are like swampy states and they have that real murky water. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit harder that's why they're a lot more dangerous in those areas, maybe.
Yeah, very possibly. Another thing too, folks, don't forget not only about the conference or whatever, but we have a Patreon, and it's right there in the corner, or it'd be over here. Patreon.com/PRT podcast. I just went through today and went through the $30 tiers and $20 tiers that need the stuff to be sent out. I believe we do have a t-shirt shipment coming in. It's technically for the conference, but we're going to send them out. But that will be the last of the t-shirts that will be given out. But it's only going to be reserved for the Patreon. Now, if you're a Patreon, you could still do it anytime. Yeah. But we're not going to do any more t-shirt or hoodie giveaways
until after
the conference. Yeah. So we have to have all of it for the conference. And so that's what's going on. We're not doing any more giveaways right now. But we still do the comment thing where we give away a book. And so that's going to happen. Let me explain something about that too real quick. I got to tell you about the how it works. The difference between the swag bag and the super swag bag is you get 2 autographed books from different books. You're not going to get 2 of the same book. And, typically you get a few more things. Like if you upgrade, say you're at a $20 tier and you want to go to a $30 tier. So you're basically getting an autographed book from one of many authors for $10. That's what you're getting. So that's what you get extra. You get a shirt or a hoodie with the $10 3 months, or $20 instantly, and the $30 instantly. But with the $30, you get an extra book, an autographed book. So if you upgrade from a $20 to a $30, I'll throw you a few little more knickknacks in there too. I always do. I'll take care of you. But I don't give out another shirt or another hoodie. But we started talking about it, and we got some people that are going up to the $40 tier. So here's what I'll do. If you do move to if you choose to type in, go to $40 tier a month and be a $40 tier member, I will throw in an extra shirt. And just message me through Patreon, and we'll talk. And tell me what your size is, and say, hey, look, I already got a gray Paranormal Roundtable shirt with a green logo. I would like a different logo
or a hat or
so,
whatever.
Yeah, and I'll give you what I can. But I thought about that. And I thought, or a hat. I'll throw a hat. So it would probably be easier to throw a hat in. The hats actually cost a little more than the shirts. The shirts are cheap compared to the hats. So I mean, you get a better deal by getting a hat. But if you wanted a hat, I could throw in a hat and a book for the $40 tier, and for the $30 tier, you get an extra book. So each tier you go up, you get a little more. The only problem with the $10 tier is you got to wait 3 months, and then we give you the whatever. The incentive, and I'll just be real honest, is that if you give more, then we give you more. And you wear our merchandise. It helps us. It helps the show. At the end of the day, what it is a way for us to help the show and grow the show and make the show become bigger.
While also giving back to y'all.
We're trying to, and we can do this more and do it more often. And I wouldn't be so tired right now if I wasn't working, doing all this work for my job. I could be able to, thank you, Mike, for that donation. Appreciate it. I greatly, greatly appreciate it, especially right now. So if you go to the website or whatever, you can always order a shirt or whatever you want from there. We have a lot of different options. But if you join the Patreon, like I said, we'll send you one. So, just remember that. And we are waiting. We got 100 and something people now, I think, in the Patreon. We were trying to get some more people in there before we release some Patreon exclusive content. And right now we're trying to figure out exactly how that's going to work. Because I'm serious also about maybe starting an account on Rumble just to talk about stuff I can't talk about on here. Mm-hmm. And you never know what could happen with these channels. Like, you never know.
Yeah, that's the scary thing about YouTube is that if we just say the wrong thing, or if the tides churn and something we used to care about suddenly changes, they'll take all of our stuff, and we can't argue with them about it.
Nothing you can do.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's you got to be prepared for those kind of things. And we do try to back up all the shows and, and do whatever in case that happens, and we can put them on another platform if we have to. But for now, I guess we're cool. Hopefully everything seems to be cool with YouTube and with Spotify. But one of the things I was going to talk about with these encounters, I don't think it's a coincidence that someone sees a ghost or ghosts in their house and they're having all kinds of weird spiritual stuff happen. Then they get in the car and they take a drive and they see a dog man. I don't think that's a coincidence. I just don't. I don't think. What are the odds, dude? Like if they were two totally unrelated things, then why? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
There's just too many people who have a variety of encounters that it has to be connected somehow. And we do get those single encounters where people just have like a single event, but that's not like as prevalent, I believe, as it is to be like, oh, I saw this happen, but also like when I was younger, I had this happen to me. And it's like, ooh, that like it happens enough time that there has to be some attention put on it.
Yeah. I mean, and we'd be doing a disservice to all of our listeners if we just said, I'm sorry, that's just my back. If we just said, you know what, we're just gonna tell part of the story. We're gonna do a ghost show, and we're gonna tell you ghost stories, and we're not gonna tell you anything else that happened with that person. But if I do, I can go back and say, okay, this was a werewolf episode, and this person saw a werewolf, and if you go back to episode such and such, we talked about them seeing a ghost. I try to tell people, hey, look at this. And then somebody told me the other day, they were like, in one of the groups, they were like, why are you talking about werewolves? And I said, because I can. Simple as that. Don't worry about it. You don't like it, don't listen,
You've never shied away from trying to keep unwanted listeners.
No. What's crazy, too, I was talking to she's one of the heads of the Dogman Believers Only group. It used to be one of the largest groups. Now we have all these other groups that popped up and got a bunch of people in them. But Cindy and Carrie that run that group, and they've done a very good job, in my opinion. We've been friends for a long time. And she said that there's just all these people who have joined their group recently, just so they can spam their event that they're having. You know, and they're not friends of the group. They haven't been contributors of the group. They don't support the group. They don't do anything. Shout out to Dogman Believers. I'm actually the admin of, and I can't believe I can't remember the name of it, Dogman Werewolf Discussion, or is it Werewolf Dogman Discussion? I'm an admin in that group, and I can't.
I think it's Dogman Werewolf Discussion.
Dogman Werewolf Discussion group with Phil Stern. And so, and fucks my brain's not working.
Not to mention Inhumanoids and Barton.
I know, dude, I'm an admin in like 20.
Oh, okay? Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, and I had to cut back once I just don't have time. And they're like, "Oh, can you help out with it?" Daryl Denton's got like 50,000 admins, but he's got, in my opinion, too many people in his group because there's too many things going on. Like I try to tell him that happens when you let too many people, and then everybody brings all their friends. Not everybody's going to play nice together. You're going to have a bunch of bots and a bunch of crazy people and stuff. Bigfoot. It's called Bigfoot. What is Daryl's group? Anyway, he's got a bunch of crazy stories in there too. I've got some good information out of there. And so one of the things I noticed, John Frank, you got that right. John Frank just made how do you say it? Is it John Frank or John Frank?
John Frank.
Jean Frank. Jean Frank. He had a very good point there. When you get these people, like everybody's got a conference now or a convention that's happening.
Yeah.
And I don't know who these people are. Like I said, Fontaine McTicklebutt. Every 5 minutes there's another one. So now we got to wade through the waters ourselves and figure out, because all these people are going to all these other conferences, and there's one in like literally every state. I mean, every week there's a different one in a different state.
That's why we got pushed out of our first venue, is because they were going to have a conference. It was a great conference center, but they had a conference a month later or something, and they were like, "Oh, we don't want to get them confused," and we're like,
"Get them confused," and then they told us, "How about taking January?" I'm like, "Who the hell wants to travel in the middle of winter, dude? When we live in North America?" I'm like, maybe if I lived near the equator, travel in January, it'd be like, whatever. But it's not. So I'm not going to ask people to do that. Boy, I was hot, dude. So the city of Granbury, whatever, turds. But yeah, somebody asked me about the title of my book. I cannot tell you that title yet. Because if I did, somebody...
You have some ideas, though, right?
Oh, I know exactly what do you mean? Do I have some ideas?
I don't know. You haven't told me the title
No,
either.
I haven't told you the title. Because I can't let y'all run your big mouths.
Yeah, I'm definitely not to be trusted. I'll sell it to the first person for a little donation.
Well, at least, you're honest. You admit that you're dishonest. But, yes, I have the working title for both books. The titles are already done. That's not even an issue. It's just a matter of just getting it done. July 16th is the finish line for the first one, and then there's about a week or two after that for the other one, and then they should both be out and be ready to go by the conference. In fact, they'll be for sale in August. So that's how close we are. Somebody keeps asking me about Wes Germer faking his encounter. I've heard things one way or the other, but you know what, dude? I don't know.
Yeah, you don't have a stake to really...
I don't have a dog in that fight. Yeah. And Wes has never done anything to me to make me think that he's dishonest. He's never said anything or done anything, in my opinion, that shows like him being dishonest. So I'm not going to talk bad about the guy. And I know he's really good friends with Tony Merkel, who's a good friend of mine. I know Tony way better than I know Wes, but like neither one of them have done anything to make me think that they're not on the level. So I don't know. I've heard people talk about that all the time. People talk about me. They say all kinds of crap. They say that I'm reading creepypasta, or what do they say, that I'm easily fooled and whatever.
There's like a Reddit just based on like hating you, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's probably that Skillies. Is it Skittles or whatever his name is?
I can't remember who it was, but yeah, I remember just reading like a bunch of people poo-pooing about the dumbest stuff. It was just like, oh, I don't like the way that he says his story sometimes, and it's too fun, and all I want is just to be scared 24/7, and it's like, okay,
Well, they want machine gun stories.
yeah, it's like good for you, but that's not how we do our show.
And it depends on which platform you're looking at too. So people say, "Oh, well, you know," and then another knock is that I use stories from other people's shows. I don't have time to watch other people's shows and go and steal their story and go, "I'm going to tell it like the guy told it to me." I challenge you to find one person that gave their story that did not give me permission to give it to me. All right. So if my story is retold on another channel with somebody that had that story, that's not my problem. That person's free to give, because like I think Ernest gave like his story to 4 or 5 channels or something. I mean, and then
Max.
Joe Barger, Max. I mean, what's his name? Recently, what's his name? Martin. I mean, they make the rounds. They're going to tell the story. I'm going to retell a story that's probably been told.
We have way too many stories in our records to be stealing it from other people.
We don't need to. I mean, you know, there is something I'm going to talk about though coming up in these Middle East deals. There are some places in the Middle East that we can't fathom. One of them is Baalbek. One of them is Petra. One is Al Madam. These are places where you get some very weird stories, and I will say there are not a lot of channels that'll be doing those stories. The stories that I get from abroad, the international stories, I got another guy who wants to come on the show, but he's from France and he speaks better French, so it would be like me having to translate the whole time or having somebody to translate, so it's kind of hard, but I may have to use subtitles. I don't know how you guys would feel about that. You may have to read subtitles. That person could come on and do like the podcast episode. We could put the subtitles on there. But the problem with that is how's that going to translate to Spotify and to Apple and Google, you know? So that's somebody said Wes addressed it like 900 shows ago, whatever. More power to him. I have no dog in that fight. Just like people ask me about Jeff Nadolny and Victor. I don't know what to think of Victor, man. I mean, you know, I don't think Jeff's. I think Jeff's on the level. I mean, I don't think if Victor's not being honest, I don't think Jeff's in on it. Let's put it that way. I don't think Jeff's a bad guy. I mean, I don't have a bone to pick with that guy. People are always trying to stir up drama. You know, I heard something about me and him didn't like each other. If he doesn't like me, he doesn't like me. I don't care. That's how the whole thing started with Vic. Was somebody went and told him that I said I didn't like him, and he fired off on me on the day my mom died, which was to me in bad taste. But it's not, you know, a simple apology would squash that 100%. You know, I'm not going to go out of my way to be his friend, but I've forgiven him and I've moved on. But I never said that I didn't like him. I said he didn't like me, because that's his refusing to support me and to give me even the little bit of what I asked for, which was just a little bit of advertisement. He refused. And I said, well, he didn't like me. In that same episode, I said that Dark Waters didn't like me either, because it seemed like he didn't. But he made it abundantly clear that we were fine, that we didn't have a problem. But then things got out of hand between me and Vic. I mean, it really hurts your feelings when you're, and on top of everything else, everybody accused me of like turning on Vic and saying that I was, you know, against him. I wasn't. That's not what happened. Somebody maliciously went and told this guy that I was trash talking him, and I wasn't. And, you know, he got upset and he said some stuff.
Yeah,
and then he took it down, you know, and
there's a
everybody
lot of stuff that happens in the background that people aren't privy to.
Yeah, they're not privy to.
Other than they pretend that they know everything, and it really stirs the pot and makes things that could have been easily fixed a lot worse. And that's one of the bad things about being a public figure, is that there is a behind the scenes that we do have that you guys don't know about, but and these people will take advantage of that to cause issues.
Yeah, SKM. I think Vic. Here's what I'll say about Vic's show, and I'm going to say this publicly. I think Vic and Jeff both do decent job. I'm not going to say I don't believe that Vic that goes in depth with it like he should. I think when people are telling their encounter or whatever, you got to get more information out of them, everything you can, but you also have to have something to add to it. Be ready to have a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
When you get people that are just on there talking on his, like the way his platform is set up, I think it can lead to a lot of people just going off the rails with their story, and it's not they have to be brought back down into the stratosphere, and sometimes it kind of goes off,
Yeah, I mean that's one thing I think I'm very proud of PRT is like even that shows we call interviews aren't really interviews. Almost every single one of them is a discussion, and
we don't do interviews.
That's why people enjoy like coming and talking on our show is because of the fact that when they come here, we're not just grilling them about anything. We're just having fun, talking, enjoying. I mean, Christopher Jordan, that last episode just kept going, and we didn't even notice it. It just passed by so quick because it was just really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Samuel Lemon says that Vic could get more out of it. He does ask the same questions with each guest. Yeah, I mean it's kind of like a cookie cutter, the way he does it. And like I said, I'm not going to sit up here and bash him. I really regret ever getting so worked up about it. I should have just let it roll off and go. But it was just the emotional attachment that I had.
It's bad timing
to my mother.
Mm-hmm.
If it would have been any other day, and it wouldn't have been like 4 hours after I had just announced my mother had passed, I think things would be different. I could have let go a lot sooner. One of the things, I talked to a guy, literally of all places, at the grocery store last night who had a near-death experience. It was really weird. I mean, he hasn't contacted me yet to give me all the details, but we talked about near-death. And he was actually, at the HEB, he was stocking the shelves. And it was very interesting. One of the things he was talking about was hell. And I remember I went back and I read a couple of encounters that I had from near-death experiences. And what is so telling about it is a lot of the, I don't know how you say it, like, I don't want to say it's like they have conversations or they're just being commanded or told. Like they'll be shown hell and they'll come back out, right? Because it's not their time. And whoever is their tour guide will kind of let them know that it's because they don't have love and they didn't forgive.
It's so weird because my mom has had a near-death experience before, and she's
really when
you don't know about this? She was sleeping
recently.
No, it was back before.
Oh, okay, yeah, She, I think I know what you're talking about. Go ahead. I've heard this one. Maybe.
She was sleeping, and in a dream, she thought she was brought to like these gates. It was kind of what she assumed was heaven, and she had someone come to her and say like, "Hey, it's your time to go," but like God is, or she's like, "You're given a chance here. Like, do you want to stay or do you want to enjoy this?" And my mom's like, "I have all my children on earth and they still need me, so I can't stay here as much as I would love to." And she was like, and it just broke my heart to think about that, I could have lost my mom just one day in her sleep.
Mm-hmm. She used to get really bad chest pains.
She got, and she said that I think after that she started feeling a lot better, but we tried to get her to stop eating hot stuff. Like if I used to think that I could eat hot stuff. My mom doesn't believe in it, and we got her to stop smoking and things like that because it really terrified a lot of us to have to think about that.
It sounds kind of silly what Jean Frank just said, but he said I had a near-death experience when I took too much edibles. That is not uncommon, dude. It's just, I never said that Jeff said anything bad, but, here's the facts, man. You can't argue with numbers, dude, okay? Jeff's got a big channel, like a pretty good-sized channel, a good following for a reason. He does a decent job. Vic is the same way. Like, I don't listen to Vic's shows or anything like that, but from what people tell me, like every few episodes or so, you'll get like one really, really good encounter from somebody. So I'm not telling you to not listen to them, or, you know, and I think that a lot of people that go on there are telling the truth, but during the problem that me and him had, we heard a lot of weird, gnarly stuff, dude. And I just was like, you know, and let's get one thing straight too. Vic Cundiff did not say anything about my mother. He never said anything about my mother. What he did, and I'm just gonna lay it out there so everybody will know, and I'm saying this with no emotion. I have no emotion attached to this anymore at all. God let me let it go. Like, I'm not joking. I prayed, and my mother, I see her in my dreams sometimes, and I know that she's proud of me for my accomplishments and what's going on. I feel it in my heart. And the last time I saw my mother was actually a few nights ago. And we were just happy and joking and talking, and it was like everything was great. But she would want me to forgive. And he told his listeners that I had said that I didn't like him. And that, you know, it's not the first time that someone had stabbed him in the back, that he helped get a start in this community or whatever, in this business, as he calls it, whatever. And I was like, they immediately knew he was talking about me, because the Friday or the Tuesday before, I had said that him and Dark Waters, maybe they don't like me and I don't care. I don't know. Somebody had mentioned it or something. I don't know how it went down, but I said maybe they don't like me, you know. And if somebody doesn't like me, I lose a ton of sleep over it. Let's put it that way. I sit up at night and I worry that they don't like me. You know, you don't care. You don't like me. This train is going to go where it goes. I don't care if you're on it or not. You're welcome to come on it, but if not, it's going to get to its destination.
It's going to pass by you.
Okay, it's going to be on time. Don't worry. Don't worry about me. But one of the things, I do get aggravated. I do get emotional at times. I'm a human being. I'd be a reptilian if I didn't. And one of the things that really irked me was that when somebody had said that, you know, I guess they ran back and told him, somebody did, and he felt the need to address it right then on the day that my mother died. And SKM says, you're better than that, let it go. I'm talking about right now with no real emotion attached to it. It is what it is. I just wanted to clear the air, and I wanted to be very, very honest with everybody. I'm not pretending like he said something horrible about my mom. I'm talking about the timing of it, and I'm not pretending that he came out. And then there was some other stuff that was said too, you know, after that, because it pertained to the Hendersons, Johnny and Elijah. And there was just a whole bunch of stuff that had gone with the witness Roger. You know, I think that people were trying to say that Vic wanted him to be on his show, and, you know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, at the end of the day, Jody Cook was involved, and we were all trying to, you know, get to the bottom of the Roger thing. It's no secret that Jody and Vic aren't close. Vic has a lot of people in this community that he doesn't associate with or don't associate with him. And that's fine. That's his prerogative. But there's this misconception that you know, he doesn't have beef with people. Everybody, let me give you a news flash. Everybody in this community has beef with people. Oh, believe me, I know. Every single person,
even
Tony,
the nicest.
Tony wants to tell. I know. Every single person we deal with. Every single person we deal with, and Tony knows it's true, has at least one person that they dislike the living crap out of, and they will be like, I don't want to work with that person. And they could be somebody that you're friends with, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that they didn't play well together. And they a lot of times have a history with each other, and a lot of times it begins with them
working together.
Yeah, they work together, and then no more. Differences came up, you know. Like I can tell you right now, off the top of my head, there's about 5 or 6 people that I'm really good friends with, and they don't like somebody that I'm friends with.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of a couple. I
can think of about a dozen.
I'm not even privy to really the background of it, but I can already just kind of guess.
It gets pretty. I'll tell you what. If you come to the conference, I'll tell you all about it. I'll make the list of people
We'll do some laundry.
I'll tell you the person that they're diametrically opposed to. That they are, but you know, and I don't go around talking about it. I don't say anything about it. Whatever. I don't go and say, hey, you know who so and so doesn't like? Yeah, her. You know, that's just don't. You know, but you know when me and Gerhard were doing, and that's Ken. When me and Ken were putting together this conference, we did not know that there were certain people that didn't play well with others, and they were like, "Oh, I'm not going to go because so-and-so's not going to go." And then 2 people ended up not going at all. That's Vault and Dark Waters. I'm not stirring the pot. I'm just saying their feud is very public right now. I'm not saying anything that's not already out there. You know, but it is what it is, and it's sad because I'm friends with both of them. But let's see here. Yes, please show some support. Hit the like button. Here's one of the things that I need to tell you. You know, when it comes to these encounters and these accounts or whatever, there is nobody who has the right to these encounters. Once it's out there and the story's been told, I don't care if this person tells me the story. A lot of times I am the first to break a story. I have been. And sometimes other people are the ones that break the story, but I don't really care. If they want to reuse it, go ahead. I'd like a little credit for being somebody, but you know, at the end of the day, if it's not my encounter, what right do I have to say, you know, it's I can't tell people what to you know, don't go on that guy's channel because of so-and-so. People have been on my show. They've been on Vic's show. They've been on Supernaturalist. They've been on What Lurks Beneath. They've been on Darkness Prevail. You know, it goes around and around. Tony Merkel, you know, it's, and then you get some of the same guests that talk about different stuff, you know, and they talk about the same stuff they talk about to them. And then it just goes on and on and on. It's the circle of life here in the paranormal community.
I think the only issue we have is when, like, we're interviewing someone and they start working with someone else and they cut contact with us. And I think the only real time we would have an issue with that. But if it's not something like that, then I don't see an issue with sharing all. I mean,
when does that happen though?
It doesn't. But like that's what I'm saying. Like,
if it did, yeah.
That's the only time I would think like there would be an issue.
Yeah. Then we'd have to go after them.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd have to
show up at their door.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's bare minimum.
Yeah, I agree with that, Max. That was actually pretty good the way he told that story. But you know, those ranch stories, they're not a dime a dozen, but they're not really rare. Those stories where people have issues on their ranches and stuff, dude, because they live out there in these sparsely populated areas at one time or another, you know, and then these dogmen are out there and they come up out of the ground, which that seems to be the case a lot of times. And then they do what they do. They create all kinds of problems. What's going on here? It's never people less. Yeah. Wide open spaces, big time. Yeah. So here's the thing. If somebody wants to throw something out there and stir the pot here, because we're doing we're potluck here, paranormal potluck. D-Truth, no comment, sir. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Suffice it to say, there's a lot of people in the community that I just don't. Wolf should talk to Jared King, Appalachian Grounding Store. Send them my way. I got a lot of. You know, here's what happened. I had the from 2.5 months ago. I had the entire thing made out for our guests. And now I don't have a guest for Friday yet.
Oh, wow. Our schedule got messed up.
Because I just kept going and I kept thinking out, I got all these guests lined up for the next, 2.5 months, whatever, almost 3 months. And then yesterday I told Nell, I said, oh no, I don't have a guest for Friday. But you know what, folks? I'm going to find somebody. Don't worry. I mean, it'll happen. It's not like it's
just a phone call away and they're more than willing to talk to us.
I'll get somebody on there. I promise somebody will do it. If not, it'll be Tony pretending. He'll be like, hello, I saw a mountain gorilla-looking creature buying eggs at the Trader Joe's.
Shaquille O'Neal and Christopher Walken on.
Yeah, 'cause
No, you got some ghosts. They do scary thing. Oh my gosh.
I don't think you saw ghosts. I think you saw eyes are hot. Paratrooper challenge. If you're in the chat, no excuses. Go hit the like. Help here. Thank you,
Thank you,
Jamie.
Mammy J. Hall.
Mammy J. Hall for that. I think the thing that people really get their hairs up about is whenever somebody they like, they think that you don't like them too, and it's like, dude, your two favorite podcasters may not like each other. I mean, that's just the way it goes. I tend to have a friendly rivalry with some of the other podcasters. I really can't say there's any that I don't like. You know, I mean, like I said, but if you go back and you look at the thing with Vic, it's like I forgive him. I don't care. And Vic doesn't have a platform like this, so he's not out there saying my name. He doesn't give a crap. My shows are still on his channel, as far as I know, with the exception of a couple. I don't know why he took those off. I mean, I have no clue. He may have taken them off because the sound wasn't good. Somebody was like telling me the other day, "Oh, you took some of your shows off." I'm like, I don't give a crap. It's
Yeah,
his
we're not
channel.
getting revenue from that. So
I'm not giving revenue from it. I don't care. Let him. He can throw them all in the dumpster for all I care.
I think it's important also that we like just because we don't like someone doesn't mean that you obviously don't have to watch their shows and suddenly develop this hatred. We're not a cult. Like we're not. You don't have to share our same interests. I think what's more important is having an interest in the paranormal. I think that's the forefront of what we want to push. So it's like if you have your own likes and dislikes, that's totally fine.
Anunnaki bro said, Waco werewolf story. Which one? There's about 8. I'm not kidding. Me and Tony were joking the other day. You I think you said this, Tony, but it was a joke, but it was funny. We were coming back from the gym and we thought, remember we were coming by where, I don't want to say where it's at, but one of the computer places, and Trey, the head of security, had said, and I said, what is that? And then it turned out to be, it looked like somebody sent, it was like a trash bag.
Oh yeah, it was just something like floating. Or
They were like, look, it's a werewolf. And then you made a joke though. You go, dude, there's so many now out in Texas here that you throw a rock, you could hit one or hit somebody who's seen one.
Yeah.
Because I just was literally like at Juice Land. This guy was talking about it, up in Colorado, or just the Colorado thing again, It's really freaking weird, dude. I mean, like, and I get all these funny stories too that I want to talk about at some point where people like give me a story and I'm thinking it's something and then it turns out to be nothing, like the bag. And it's like you don't. I mean, you don't even like it's so common now. You don't have to look like the guy at the bank, the teller at the bank. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. When you went with Nelly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say though, like it's so common now that you're more likely to find a cryptid than just a regular bag. So you're on the lookout for all of that.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's just a bag. What an odd thing to see is a black trash bag instead of a Bigfoot standing there. Like, I mean, and like me personally, people keep trying to say, oh, Josh Turner claims he's seen all these cryptids. No, I have not. I have not seen a bunch of cryptids. I've had ghost encounters, spiritual encounters.
And you've had some weird stuff that's happened.
I've had some weird stuff that's happened, and my life has been a very weird journey, and it's the truth. It is the absolute truth. And I have witnesses, to all the encounters that I've had. And if you think you can go talk to the people that I saw these things with. I mean, nobody's stopping you, but they're an opportunity. Go interview them. Say, hey, is this guy full of crap? Did he see this? And if he goes, I don't know, maybe he saw it, I didn't see it, then you can say, hey, this guy's full of crap. That's not going to happen because they saw it too, and they were just as freaked out as I was. And if they say they weren't, they're lying. We were all scared. It wasn't like it was just me running around, streaking. I'm joking. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, it's like these things really happen. Now, Dinah Russo says, I don't care much for Victor, but Jeff tells good stories too. This show and his are my favorites. Yes, BS Artist is right. BS Artist is who? I don't know who you're referring to. Oh, she's talking about Victor. Okay. Yeah, and so, I mean, Bradford says that one guy, yes, I tend to believe Native Americans lore. That's the thing that gets me about the Native American thing. Speaking of Trey, it's kind of a weird coincidence. We were just talking about Trey Kirk. But Trey, my cousin Trey Turner, he said it, he's like, dude, he's a white guy, straight up white guy. It was my dad's side of the family. And he says, you know, I don't. He's like, I forget how he worded it. He's like, I don't like it when white people, or any people really, they pick and choose what they want to believe from the Native Americans to use it.
They're selectively.
Selectively, yeah. It's kind of like, what's his name? Chris Rock with selective outrage. You know, I mean, it's like, it's true. You know, they selectively choose. Well, to prove a point, you know, the apers will be like, the Native Americans called them the first peoples and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's like one tribe, dude. And then every other tribe calls them a spiritual creature. So you pick out the one tribe that you pluck that out of there and say, you know.
Well, it's just everybody nowadays. It's like
the Okawatami people say that blah, blah, blah.
They'll go like on the internet and find one single post and they'll deny all the other posts. They'll say like, you're absolutely wrong. But they'll find the one post that says they're right. And they're like, this is what's true.
Mm-hmm.
This is wild.
Sniggle Fritz says cattle mutilations in cattle mutilations with an exclamation point enlighten me. If you want to hear something terrifying, not just the Brazilian Exorcist episode I did, which I think brought some weird juju into my freaking place here, but you should go and check out. There is a one that my wife had showed me, and I don't watch many. I don't have time, but it was about an alien abduction where it was a person that it happened to. And obviously the person they were unalived by it. Let's put it that way. It was terrible. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can imagine something like that happening. It would be awful. And just the thought that they could just take you at any time and do whatever. And it's just, you just don't know. D Truth says, I'm in Pennsylvania. I've seen one reptilian 5 feet from me. That'd be interesting to know. Get in touch with me. Because if you're an experiencer, I definitely want to hear what you have to say. Because what it looked like would be important to know. It says you had two dogmen on my roof. That's one thing. People get them on the roofs quite a bit. And then another one sitting, which I think was a Bigfoot. Pennsylvania's full of these things. Yep. Yeah, when you go back and you look at some of these stories that we've gotten, and there's some crazy ones, like the lady that had the experiences in Petra. When I get into that story, that's going to be a crazy story. I mean, like that would scare the crap out of most people. There are these creatures, and they're called by different names in Islam, and it predates Islam. It goes all the way back to the Arabs. The Berber, who, if you look up the Berber, they're actually the people that are native to Saharan Africa before the Islamic invasion by the Arabs, because the Arabs aren't indigenous there. The Berbers are. People don't know that. They think that it was always just Arab people that lived in that. No, they took over that. They were the minority at one time, and then they took over because of the invasion, the Islamic invasion, spreading Islam. And these creatures go way back, and they have weird names. Like in my book, I'll talk about the different types of werewolves, it's in particular one from Lebanon, and they have these weird names. I talked to a Lebanese lady, Samaya, say hello to you. She works at the perfume counter over in Macy's. She's a very nice lady. And she was talking about her husband. Having her and him and his friends actually went out and hunted one of these things, and we were just there at the perfume counter smelling different perfumes, because Nellie was looking for a particular scent or whatever, and we ended up finding it with Al, because you
can find everything.
You can find everything with him. Couldn't find it over there because they had them moved or something, and Nellie was like looking for it. She doesn't ask for much, so when she wants something, I try to help her. You know, when she wants to eat, I'm like, here we go again. You know, just not happy just watching me eat. No, you got to eat too.
You ready to finish all your crackers?
Good grief, man. She goes through those packs of crackers like, I thought it was one a day. Now it's two.
Unsalted saltines.
Like, what next week? Cheez-Its? Is that what it is? Is that where we're headed? Huh? You want flavored water? God. Next thing you know, she'll be asking for Gatorade. But
no,
it's
indoor
crazy.
bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. it's crazy because like this woman was just talking about it very openly. You know, it's like it's a natural, normal thing. They see these things all the time. But when you look at these stories that you get of these creatures and where they're at and all this stuff, there's this one creature in particular that is very terrifying, and it's not my. It's gonna be my book. It may be in a later book that I'm gonna do that's just about monsters in general. I have it like getting ready to maybe do that one in a ghost book, probably a multiples of these books. But the crazy story that I read was of there was a Russian soldier that was killed by a sand devil. Now they have different names for these creatures, like dervish, you know, or the other name is starts with a D too. Oh God, it's like it sounds like dervish, but it's not. It's like Devi or something like that. But anyway, they're basically the same thing. What they are creatures like the jinn or demons, whatever, and they use sand to create a body, and they actually kill people. They will actually, and they will devour the flesh of an entire animal or human. You know, I'm not joking. I'm not making this up. I'm being serious. This is like literally like part of the folklore in that region. And this one particular case, it happened in Iran. And they were doing maneuvers with the Iranians. Like, I guess the Russians have been allies with them for a long time. And a Russian tank crew, actually, one of them was devoured by one of these things.
How do you even fight something like that?
You can't. I mean, maybe with like some sort of, you know, protection, you know, like God. That's it. But these things, these whirling dervish or whatever, and the dervish are actually the people who actually, that they were a type of people who would practice Sufism and different types of, you know, whatever, and they could create these things or summon them, I guess, and they would use the power of these creatures to fight. And they were Bedouins that would talk about, you know, in the middle of the night, which is something I'm going to touch on when I talk about the story that happened near Petra. But these creatures are like nasty, dude. I mean, they do some really bad things, and they're very harmful. And people don't really understand, like they don't grasp, like how dangerous things are. You know, that they think you're going out and just you're going to go drive around out in the area where there's been UFO sightings, whatever. How do you know or not know what could show up? You know, when you want to go out into the woods and look for Bigfoot, what are you going to do when you find him? Like, you don't know what's going to happen. You really don't. I mean, like, what are you prepared for, you know? And one of my colleagues, he says that they're like giant squirrels. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, you know, I love the guy, but it's like, I can't, I'm like, dude, because he, you know, and he says, well, most of the reports he gets, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because those are reports that he gets because they know that he's into the ape theory. And so maybe that's why they send him those. But here I get stories that are not so nice because people know that I'm willing to tell the story from all sides.
Or at the very least, we're willing to open or listen to your all-sided story.
You have to. You really have to.
Some people just get rubbed the wrong way when you completely ignore half of their story. Like 30, it's like they have 90% of stuff, but you only want to hear the 10%. It's like, why would I talk to you? You don't really care about what I'm talking about. You care more about what you want to get out of it.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story, folks. This is, and then we got to run here, even though we got 500 people in the chat. And thank you for everybody who donated. We appreciate the donations.
Yeah, everyone who stayed, even though we had some issues in the beginning.
Yeah, we were going to bail because, I mean, you know, and I know that the times are hard right now, whatever. Donations are not expected, but they're greatly appreciated, especially right now with the conference looming 2 months away. I definitely got to get something going here to pay for this because it's not going to be through ticket sales. I'm going to tell you this. We got way too big of a venue. We thought it would be bigger, but then, it is what it is. The economy and whatever. And I don't want people to think I'm guilting them or whatever. Somebody said that. You guys misread me, dude. You don't know. If you show up at the conference, you get to know me. We can talk and you can see that I'm a genuine person. You can look me in my eye and I'll tell you the stories dead in your eye.
I mean, it was pretty obviously just a frustration at the situation, especially since, it's something that you're really excited about. We're all excited about doing, other than it not kind of coming to fruition like how we kind of imagined it would obviously frustrate
still
anybody.
Have a crowd.
Oh, no, like it's not like it's going to be bad. It's just I think we were imagining a little in a better time where the economy wasn't going to be so horrible.
And I wasn't going to do it, and then I kind of got talked into it. But the thing that kind of aggravated me was just the prevalence of so many conferences.
Yeah.
There has been a different conference every week.
Jordan
for the entire year.
He said he goes to every conference all the time because there's just
every week
everywhere.
There's one, yeah. And some of these ain't worth doodly squat, Like I said, Fontaine McDoodoo head, like who are these people? Like and they're like, Carl people, like who is this? Who is this guy? Like, I don't know these people. Why would you pay money to go see this guy ramble on about Bigfoot, And I saw it, and it was in the woods, and I was hunting a deer. And okay, we've heard this 1,000 times.
Yeah, it's like I was gonna say, it's not like it's something new that they're saying either.
I mean, a lot of them, I think, they're just researchers, but some of them will have like an experience. And then I heard some of them will go up there, and say things like they had habituation or something. They've seen all these Bigfoots, but they have no proof. So
I think there's some that just have an interest in the subject. So I'll throw a conference and have everybody come to me.
Oscar Silva says, love the show, but the complaining by Wolf kind of kills it. It's like, okay, but we get it, but get to the stories. Dude, I don't know what you're expecting of me. I'm not a story machine, Mr. Silva. That's not what I do. I'm not here to just, whatever, to talk about stories.
Robot.
I do that on the podcast. You can go and check it out. I do tell stories, but there's a lot going on in this. And so,
especially on a Sunday show.
Sunday show, yeah. And we don't have a guest here, and I'm not here to just bang out stories. You want stories? I mean, go read my books. They're coming out. And then you can also, learn something. And sorry that if complaining kills it, I'm going to be real honest with you. You can leave. Just get out. Go. Don't listen to my show. It's not going to hurt my feelings if you don't like me and you don't want to be here. Don't be here. You know what I mean? It's totally okay. Bernard says, keep killing his buzz. Every stream needs padding, Brolio. But yeah, so it's whatever, dude. I mean, you're going to be one of those people that's going to complain in the chat and the what is it, the comment section.
Oh yeah.
I don't even go in and delete any of that. I don't.
I just deleted one the other day.
Yeah, you do. You, Anthony and Nelly just go in there and destroy them. I don't care.
It wasn't even.
I don't even get mad. I don't give a crap. Say what you want to say. It's you're free, because right now I believe it's most important, because our freedoms are going away, and it's because people don't care and they're not complaining. That's the problem. And then so go ahead and voice your opinions and say what you got to say now, because in a few months, I mean, I would say a few years, maybe a few months, you may not be able to.
And I don't delete real critiques. I just delete people that have some snippy little crap to say.
Yeah, and they like to say something. He talks over the guest. He talks so much about the guest. Folks, I know. Let me explain something to you on this live stream right now. I'm going to tell you this. I know my guests when they come on, okay? And I know how much material I want them to talk about, or that they're going to be able to talk about. So there's a certain amount of space that I have to take up. You understand? So sometimes what I end up doing is I have to take one for the team and carry because that person has only so much material that they can give up or that they want to give up, like Max. Max has a very intriguing story, but he was very adamant that we don't talk about it on the show because he's going to do something with it. I don't know, and that's up to him. He wants to, whatever. He's gonna do a thing with. I think he's gonna do that with what's his face, the guy that was on later on.
The one
Doug Hychek,
yeah.
great friend of mine, who came on the show at the end of the show.
Monster Quest.
Monster Quest, yeah. Maybe I'll tell Doug to come on, and he can. But he was just on. But I could tell him to come on.
I mean, have an actual,
Yeah, have him come on, and we can talk. And but you got to kind of know how much somebody's got to say. And some people, you got to be careful because they don't have as much to say. So you have to kind of, and then you have to kind of get it out of them too. So I know what I'm doing. And y'all, and people sit up here judging me and going like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Just please, just whatever. Philip Miller says, what time does the conference start Friday? Oh, the Friday is for the VIPs, and I believe that's at 6:00. Yep, and then we're going to start early on, like not too early because we want everybody to be able to sleep in, like 9:00, I think 9 to 9 on Saturday, and then it's going to go again on Sunday. So you're getting like 20 speakers. People who, they're not even all on that little, whatever that is, the roster. That's not even everybody that's going to be speaking. I'm not joking. There's a bunch of people. Tex isn't on there. Expanded Perspectives guys aren't on there. Tony Merkel's on it because I don't know if Tony's coming or not for sure yet. But there's a bunch of people that aren't on there that may show up, and then some that are going to show up for sure. And we just ran out of space.
It's like
it's going to be a who's who.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if nothing else, there's going to be a bunch of collaborations coming out of it. And if you're there, you could say you saw it. I mean, it's check it out. You're going to have Bigfoot people, Mothman people, alien abduction, ghosts. It's a Dogman Cryptid conference, but there's going to be something for everybody there.
It's a paranormal roundtable.
It is a paranormal roundtable event, and I always bring the whole enchilada. I don't just bring you the beans and rice. You know what I mean? So, and I've been asked to speak. I didn't want to speak, but several people have told me that I should speak, at the conference. If there's time, if they're at the end, on Sunday, then I'll probably speak. If not, I'm going to let the other people speak. You guys can hear me speak anytime. And if you're there at the conference and you want to talk to me, I would love to sit there in Fort Worth or in White Settlement, where it's at in Fort Worth, whatever, and just chop it up with you. Because there'll be time after on Saturday night, Sunday night. I'm going to be there till Tuesday, so you guys want to hang out.
There's a water park. I mean, we're planning on having fun there.
We're going to hang out all weekend. That's just going to be it. It's going to be my vacation, and I'm going to enjoy myself. And everybody's fine to come, and
I'm pretty excited about it. Hope you guys are too.
So I was going to tell you one more story. And this one's really weird, and I'm going to probably repeat this story. Sorry for breaking it to you. It's probably going to end up on the podcast because a lot of people on the podcast don't watch the live stream and vice versa. But if you do both, it'll probably be on the podcast. But there was this guy who was hiking up in the woods, and like I was talking about, what's it called, Flagstaff. Now, these people don't realize it's in Arizona, but there's a wooded area there, very beautiful. And I got a story out of there one time, and I think it was Lizard Potluck, if you go back and look at that one or listen to it. And this guy was walking through the woods, and he comes across – this is a weird story, okay, before I get into this story. This is really weird, okay? Disclaimer, I'm not saying that I believe this guy – 100%. I don't know. But he claims that this happened. Okay. And like I said, I'm going to retell it, and I'll probably go into more detail about it on the podcast. Long story short, because I got to jump off here. He comes across this. the only way I could describe it was as a werewolf-like creature. Like it was definitely a dogman type creature, and it was in the area going toward the Grand Canyon, in between Flagstaff and Grand Canyon. It's about like, I don't know, 100 miles or something. I'm not for sure exactly. And he said that he was there. He was all alone. He was walking through the woods, and he was camping or whatever, and he decided to leave his RV. And he said he walked miles into the woods, and he heard this, like whatever. And he sees what can only be described as he said, a timber wolfish being. That's how he first described it to me. And his name is Ethan. And I said, Ethan, let me ask you the question here. I was like, You're calling it a timber wolfish type being, and we're messaging back and forth. I said, can you be a little more specific? He says, it looked like a freaking werewolf. I said, okay. He said it was probably only about 5 or 6 foot long, tall, but it was laying on the ground. And he said that it was like battling with something. Now, folks, this is weird, okay? And I said, what was it battling with? And here's what's even weirder. Is that I think our former colleague Armando gave us one of these stories. If you remember correctly, Tony, if we go back in the archives, because I found it listed in a folder where he had left me whenever he left in at the end of December 2019. And so I looked at that and I thought, okay, that right there, because there is another story that's a thread. This is very weird. This is why it's good to keep records. Tony can tell you, am I the most OCD person?
Yeah, definitely, especially when it comes to stuff like that.
I am very OCD. I'm like 37 Jeopardy, 730 Jeopardy. So what was really crazy though? He hears this noise or whatever, and he said all he's got is a walking stick, like a big stick, and he's walking with it. And he goes, dude, I'm stunned. I'm sitting there watching to the left of the trail that I'm on. I see what can only be described as a black panther-y type creature that's on top of what looks like, at first he goes, I thought it was a werewolfish type creature. And so I said, look, let me ask you from the beginning. I was like, when you walked up, what was the first thing you saw? And he goes, I saw this thing on its back that looked like a werewolf. And it was rolling around and it was flailing. It had arms, like, and it was like flailing at the air. And he goes, I'm like, what is this thing, swatting flies? What, he goes, but it was terrifying. He said his instinct was to turn around and run, but then he saw this swirling black, what could only be described as like a smoke. And he thought it was coming off of the creature, but he said that the thing was taking shape, and the shape it took was like of a black panther. Now, Barton Nunley, I talked to him, and one of the things that he saw one time when he was down in one of those hollers in Kentucky was a black panther walking through the creek bed, and it scared the crap out of him. And then this big prehistoric wolf-like creature, this is Barton's story, chased it up a tree. And then he said, dude, I got the heck out of there. Well, that goes kind of along the lines of that file that I found. Now, I don't know if Armando fielded that report or maybe you might have helped him.
It was Armando, but I remember him talking to me about it.
Yeah. And I didn't know if it was one of y'all, but I found the file, and it was back from 2019, and it was in near Edmonton. I believe it was Canada. And it just said file Canada, whatever. So I looked on there, and I was like, what is this? And I looked it up, and so I wrote it down because I had So I went back, and I found the report. And it was so weird. It was really, really freaky the way that I ended up finding it, too, because, like, I wrote it down on, those million notepads on the... Folks, I am still into technology, believe me, but as Tony can tell you, I still write tons of notes, and they're all over the place.
Yeah, just books and books of, like, notebooks. Like, I haven't seen anyone use a notebook since high school, but this guy just has, like, thousands of them everywhere. All different colors, all different kinds. Like, one's about all the books he has, one's about all the phone numbers. It's just all kinds of stuff.
Dude, I'll have the phone numbers on there, and it'll have the story on the top. I just noticed it, but not the name.
Yeah.
Not the name. And I'll be like, hey, it's Josh Turner. I'm calling about Bigfoot. You want to talk about Bigfoot? Ha, ha, ha. So if you get a call from me and I don't, it's because sometimes I'll forget to write down, or I'll write down the name, no story. And do you have a story for me, sir? They're like, no, this is your insurance agent. This is Mike. Yeah. But hey, are you coming to the next bull riding event? Yeah, maybe. No, I get into this, and so I write stuff down. But this one, I wrote it down. I said, I got to go back and look this up. And then the next day was when I got that encounter. Or no. Wasn't the next, it was like a couple days went by. And I was like, this is too freaky, dude. Like this, so what this thing was rolling around on the ground with was this black, it formed into like what looked like a Black Panther, but it had like this is what was weird. Like the guy told me, and he sounded very sincere, even though he's a little, and no offense to you, Ethan, you just, like I said this to you on the phone and you said it was okay for me to say this. You sounded frantic / manic. Because I know that I believe him because he was reliving, he was telling the story, and I could tell he was reliving every minute of it. And it was scary.
Obviously traumatizing.
Dude, hell yeah. So you're sitting there, he's scared to death. You know, he's not that old. He's, not that being young, but he's a young guy. You know, he's in his early 20s, and he hasn't seen something like this, and this thing was about 40, 50 yards up. He said, I was compelled to walk closer so I could get a look at this thing. Which he did. And I'm actually glad he did. And I'm glad he survived. But folks, I'm going to put a disclaimer right now. I don't want you in any shape or form, just to get a better story to go tell everybody on the intranets, please don't walk towards something like this that's happening. Now, this guy did, and he was unarmed. And thank God he got away. And we don't even know that if he was armed with a firearm or a sword or a weapon, it would even do anything. And I keep telling Barton that about his weapons. I said, you don't know. I told Valenti the same thing, and I worry about my friends that go out into the field, like Lyle and Ken and all these guys, David, because you don't know.
You're messing with the magic you don't understand.
You don't know. I mean, you just don't know. I worry about those guys. And so I won't go out into the woods by myself. I just won't do it because if something happens, nobody's going to know.
I won't go in the woods with a group.
I will now, as long as I'm not pushing through poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac, and, black widows and snakes and every type of freaking Lyme disease from ticks and whatever. I don't want lice. But, it's he's standing there and he's like, what is he supposed to do? He's like, I'm miles from where I'm supposed to be. He goes, and I got to head back because, dark is going to come. It's summertime, but it's going to come, And he sees this thing rolling around the ground, and he said, dude, he goes, the weirdest thing was this panther-like creature. It kind of looked at him. It turned and looked over at him because it sensed his presence, and then it just looked back at the thing that he was dealing with. He said that what should have been a paw looked almost like an elongated, in his words, hand that went over this werewolf-looking creature's face, like it covered its muzzle and was going into its mouth.
Oh, my gosh.
And he was like, dude, it was, and then this thing at one point when it formed into a sort of creature, he said that the claw hand of this dog man was scratching at this thing's body and smoke and dust was coming off of it. Now, I know you've heard this before about the smoke, dust, whatever. One of these things gets shot and this weird looking, almost gunpowdery, I don't know, what would you call it? Dust?
It's like some kind of particle.
Particles, yeah, that come off of it. And so he said it was scratching it, and the thing was like roaring, like, like while it was fighting it. At no time did he say that the dog man or werewolf morphed or was changing into anything other than just being a flesh and blood solid creature, but he said that this black cat thing was, and eventually he said that it looked like the thing was getting the upper hand on the wolf. And then he said that eventually the thing started to kind of vibrate, like shake. And then it just kind of went, and then it went like in a bunch of different directions. And he said that some of that black dust started kind of forming like a little block, as he called it. And it went toward him. And that's when he turned around and just ran. He just booked. He said, dude, I ran. He goes, when he got back to his RV, he thought he was going to collapse and like the guy from Marathon. He's like, The Persians are here. He drops dead. It's like, thank you. Now we can go and do what we have to do. Oh, what was this guy's name? No, we don't know, but we'll name him after the town. Marathon, whatever. Poor guy runs all that way. People barely remember him. It's just like, we're just going to run and then call it after the town that he ran and died in. I thought that was kind of an ignominious ending, but whatever. He did his job. But you know, the guy ran and he said, dude, he goes, my heart was beating so fast. He goes, and I'm in pretty good shape, you know, and he's not a big fat guy. He's a thin guy. But he said, dude, I thought I was going to pass out, you know, so, you know, it was just so, you know, overwhelming. And the people that he was with, they were just like, you know, like not with, but the people that he made friends with that were next door to him. They were out there and they were barbecuing or whatever. And they were like, are you okay? Are you okay? You know, and they're freaking out, you know. And he was just like, I just saw the craziest thing. I just saw the craziest thing. When he tells them the story, the wife of the guy next to them, whatever, he says, dude, she says, dude, like I just talked to a guy a couple days ago who claims he saw a really large black panther up in a tree looking down at him. But it was just sitting there like wagging its tail. I didn't even mess with him. And he just walked by and he looked up at it. And so it's really weird. Like, if that's to be believed, in that story, like she had one of the other campers say that just a couple of days before he saw a very large, strange looking black cat up in a tree, but it didn't bother the guy at all. And so he turns around, and at one point he says this was the last thing he saw. When he turned and he looked back, he didn't see the black stuff going towards him anymore. He just turned around and he looked, and he saw what looked like this wolf-like creature kind of sitting up and coughing and like putting its hand in its mouth and pulling like black, what looked like sludge or goo. Like he turned around and he looked, and he just kind of, when the trail kind of wound like that, he could see it, you know, more clearly. He said, I look over and I see it. Like it's pulling something out of its mouth.
Like tar or like oil?
He couldn't really describe it. He just said it was like black, like a black substance, you know? Now I had another one that was very similar to that of a Bigfoot, but I can go on and on about this. This is weird stuff. And folks, we got to get going here. It's already been 3 hours and 30 minutes. And thank you for the donations. You know, I'm sorry I didn't please everybody. Obviously, you know, people didn't really donate because I suck.
Because you're political.
I messed with Oscar. I made Oscar mad. You know, so Oscar Mayer Wiener got mad. And he's like, get to the stories, man. Get to the stories. Good God, you know.
I need the stories, man.
KD7, that's a good point. Sounds like a Toltec shape. Zype Totec. I don't know. Very weird, dude. I mean, I don't know. Very weird story. Like I'm gonna retell that story on the podcast. So if you don't want to hear it twice, don't be like, you already told that story. What are you, retard? You know, like you just, you know, it's always something. Samuel Lemon, absolutely. And, you know, and we could only get into so much of that when we did the Garitano interviews. I encourage everybody to go back and listen to those. You know, and I'm sorry that we don't just always do stories. Jonathan Swerzune, would you ever interview? No. But you know, and it's nothing against him, dude. That guy puts himself, like, you know, to get him to come to a conference is like, you know, I've never asked, but I've heard that it's absorbent, like it's expensive. So no, I don't have any plans on, you know. He's one of those people that a lot of people seem to have some issues, you know, and like I'm not one of them, and I don't want to be one of them. I don't want to fight with somebody. Somebody said, tell us your story. Oscar better tune in, whatever. And I don't want to bag on Oscar too bad, but that was just really annoying. I hate when I hear that, you know, and it's like, I'm not here to just machine gun,
y'all. I mean,
spit out your stories. Yeah.
We're here to entertain y'all, but that's on our way how we entertain. Like, we're not some puppets that are just going to do exactly what you guys want.
Exactly. So anyways, folks, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to run. Thank you for those that donated. Sorry that I didn't spit machine gun stories out at you. It was a weird day. And when you sit here and you mess with your electronic equipment now that's expensive to say the least, and not wanting to cooperate, and takes over an hour, which is why we were late.
And constantly shutting on and off.
Shutting on and off. And I'm not going to sit here and act and get conspiratorial, but it seems to happen to us a lot.
It seems to happen when we're talking about specific topics too. And I'll tell you this, Anthony and Alec are very good at what they do here. And they've both done a lot of good work here. And they know what they're doing. Christopher Jordan took a look at our setup. He does conferences. He does multimedia, and there's no reason why this stuff should be happening. I don't know what it is, I'm not going to sit up here and go, the government's trying to silence me, man, because I don't know if they are or they're not. But somebody doesn't like what we're talking about. But anyway, I've been kind of warned already, about flying too close to the sun. It sucks when you have to dumb it down, because when you have an audience as clever and smart as ours. Yeah.
And I've been in other chats, and I've been on other shows, man, and the audiences are just not there. They're not on our level. I don't give a crap what anybody says. And I had a friend of mine, he's like, well, you're biased. Of course. Well, yeah, I'm biased because they're paratroopers. But damn it, our people are battle hardened, dude. At this point, you're a cryptid ghost, para veteran. I mean, if you've been with us, some people.
Dick Richards, I could say, knows so much about. He just throws out.
He always does.
Knowledge
and he's
all
not the only
time.
one. There's so
that's
many
just one of many.
Shade Viking.
Shit, yeah.
When you go back and these people message you and they tell you, hey, I've been with you since you were on that other show, and they've been through the trenches. They've probably seen all the lies and they know all this stuff. But you got to remember, though, folks, you guys are veterans. The newbies come in. They don't know anything about our show, and the only way to grow is to get new people. You can't just throw them out in the deep water and be like, you ever heard of Thought? Yeah, he's the guy that created the pyramids. Everything comes from the underground, Argartha. You got the different cities, and we have all this stuff in the angelic realm going on. You have several different levels. You don't want to go down because that's hell, and then Bigfoot and Dogman and reptilians, and good night. People are not going to know what the hell you're talking about. They're going to be like,
sounded wild. Just
this guy said something about spaceships and aliens and,
demons
I don't know
and
what's
lizards.
going on, man. I think he was describing Star Wars. I thought I heard about light bulb sticks fighting with each other. I don't know what he's talking about. Because it's, people coming out of the ocean and stuff is happening. There's all these different civilizations and Dogman and werewolves. You can't just expect people to jump right in and just go, let's go into the deep water, folks. You got to learn to swim.
Well, I also appreciate the questions that our viewers are willing to ask. They seem to be very, based on wanting to find the answer of, their interest. It's not like they're just throwing out things like cookie cutter questions that they would just have, but it's like they throw out questions that are thought provoking, that provide an interesting answer. I feel like.
Which we get from our guests. They'd like to tell us that we do a good job of making the interviews painless and not boring. Because let's face it, some of these people, they get interviewed a lot, and they're just like,
it's the same question over and over
Yeah,
again.
they don't want to hear the same crap. And when they're able to get into what is a discussion with someone, it's a breath of fresh air to them, Because I don't want to bring these people on my show, which a lot of them are really my friends, and just be like, okay, you're going to come to my show. You're going to be bored to tears. Get ready.
Thank you, Blood and Magic Man, for those donations.
The heck was that? I don't know if that was a spider or what, dude. We got spiders, and there's spiders everywhere, dude. Like everywhere.
Every time I go out to my truck, there's a web.
They're colonizing us over here. It's like that Rick and Morty. Like the spiders. Yeah, I mean, I could just do like Ben Stein and be like, welcome to my show. Today we're going to talk about ghosts and possible other dimensions. What are people seeing? That's what some of these shows sound like. Or they just sit around and tell inside jokes that nobody knows. And that's also doubly boring. And I'm not bagging on Hicks. Somebody said that I was bagging on Hicks the other day. Dude, I'm technically a Hick. I'm from Hicksville, I mean, come on. I just don't want to go on a show where they're all like, I'm over there hearing you, and I'm going to hear me, and I don't even know who these people are. and they're talking about Bigfoot, and they're acting like they're the authority on it, and once again, I don't know who they are. And then, they're preaching at you, and you're just like, I'd like to know, what your credentials are. Have you written a book? Do you have a show other than this rambling, whatever it is you do every week or whatever? And then people say that I'm too picky about the shows I go on. Folks, yes, I am. Absolutely, I am. I can't just go on every show that somebody invites me on. I get invited on it. People aren't like beating down the door to get me on their show, but I turn down a couple a week. Let's put it that way. And it's not anything against anyone. I just don't have time. So I have to pick the shows, no matter how big or small, of the people that I consider to be my friends.
Not only that, but at the very least, you have to be willing to have something to put forth on the table, because if you're going to, I think I can say this without sounding arrogant, but we have a brand here, PRT, and we have something that if we're gonna join and put it as part of your show, you can't just be some random Joe Schmo from nowhere. It's like we have to stand behind what you're putting out. So if you don't have anything that you're putting out that we can stand behind, why would we risk? Like, why would we do that? It just doesn't make sense. Feels like common sense to me, at least.
And people, if the fans only knew how much I really loved you. Like, I try to answer everybody. You send me a friend request on Facebook. Let me know that you're you like the show. I'll approve it. I got rid of a bunch of people on my Facebook, so I have room, because I just want people from PRT. No offense to other people, but if you don't watch my show, I don't have time for you. I just don't. If I don't know you in my day-to-day life and you don't watch the show, guess what? We're not going to be friends. That one lady, she got real mad. She's like, we got mutuals, 161 mutuals. And I'm like, do you watch my show? She's like, I don't have time. I was like,
Dislike.
not like. Then I don't have time for you to be like, what are you doing? Like, what?
Why would I listen to your input?
I don't, she doesn't do anything. I guess she's a researcher. She goes to conferences. That's like her thing, to go around and talk it doesn't seem worth it to me, man. Like, everybody keeps telling me, go hit the conference circuit. I know my friends that are on the conference circuit, and I'm not going to talk price here, but it's not really worth it, dude. I mean, I'm like, for me to do all that, I would be having to take a huge financial loss, dude. Like, I mean, it was much easier just to do the show, and deal with my business. I would be losing a lot of money to go and talk on a circuit. It is not feasible for me financially. It would be stupid. I mean, it would just be dumb.
I think
I'm not saying it's dumb for them, because
Yeah.
a lot of them have bunches of books and stuff like that, and they sell a lot of merch and books and stuff, but I just don't, at this stage of my career, no, I'm not going to do that.
I think at this point, since we are a PRT community, the people that we want to bring in, we want to make sure that they're willing to join the community. It's like, I think we've been very upfront about being how important it is to us to have like a very, upstanding and well versed in different subjects, but still willing to be open. And like that's kind of like how we see our community and how we want it to be. And if you're not really a person that can vibe or really fit into that piece, then we don't have time for you.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of other people that are more than willing to.
One of the things that somebody says here, and I agree, Sleepy House had a good point. He said, hey, to be fair, it's not always about the money. And I get your point, but I'm going to explain something to you guys, everybody that's here. For me to do this show, it's not so much I'm going to lose money, but to have Tony and Anthony here to help make the show happen, it costs us a lot, like a few $100s. We're losing a few $100. So every time I'm on the air, you got to remember I'm losing a few $100. So if I can make even a little bit of that back, it helps pay for the to be here.
You got to remember, we do these shows on the weekends, and those are
That's when we make our
That's
money.
when I make the most money. And
Yeah.
instead, I'm more than willing to be here with you guys, but it is a loss on my part because it's
time.
a lot of hours that I'm missing out on.
Yeah, and he loses money and he works for me, so I lose money. You know, and then we have to go through the hassle. Like today was a hassle trying to find somebody who had a new account that opened up, and it's a temporary account, but it's one of our old clients, so we had to do it. We couldn't tell them go pound salt. You have to have somebody there. If you go tell them to go pound salt, they'll go find somebody else. They'll tell you the same thing. So he has to go, you know, be off. So then him and Anthony's sick right now, and he's working and doing the show and doing the he's doing everything.
Yeah, he's pushed himself.
He's pushing himself, and so we have to temper it. You know what I mean? And somebody made a statement one day. They're like, "Oh, you're complaining about 2 more hours a week." Ooh, I was like, 2 more hours a week is a lot of work. You have no idea. If you want to make a successful podcast, now if you want to just get on Steamroll or what is that? They didn't have that when I first started. You couldn't go live unless you had 10,000 subscribers when I first started. But now they go live and they could have 50 subscribers and then go live on SteamYard.
Yeah.
They go
just
through
them and their mom, and then they're live.
Yeah, and they can go through StreamYard, and more power to them. You know, you didn't have to till the soil like I did, but you can't just jump on there and just think, oh, I'm just going to do this. You know, it's like you got to have a viewership. You got to have certain things, and people when they want to start a podcast, I tell them, and I told one guy, I just said I think it's a bad idea right now to even try to start anything, and he's like, oh, you're just being jealous now. Being a Gen Xer, that is our sin probably, is jealousy and envy.
Okay, just because you're right doesn't mean it's good.
But I was like, no, I'm not being a hater. I said, I'm just telling you right now, it's a very hard thing to get started with the economy the way it is and everything else. You have to try to make money at this to make it to where you can at least pay for the show.
Mm-hmm. The equipment
and everything else. If you want, and you can always start off with cheaper stuff and then move your way up. But dang, man, you know, I mean, I was talking to the guys from Expanded, Kyle and Cam the other day, and they were talking about how they got started and what they went through and everything. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm. There's going to be a long period of time where you're not making money, and in fact, you're losing a lot of money. So you have to have some income to support yourself on that.
Yeah, see, JoJo just made a good comment there, giving the economy a hard time to start anything. Mm-hmm. And this guy just took it like I was slapping him in the face, you know, and I said, no, man, I'm just trying to keep you from, John Frank says, this is why most podcasts fail. They end up begging to make ends meet. The problem is, if you're going to do this, the average lifespan for, what did we read? It was 3 months, right? Mm-hmm. 3 months is the average lifespan of the pod. It's like, wow. And then they might come back to it and then they disappear again or whatever.
The first break is definitely 3 months. There's always at least. Like I saw.
If you can get past the first year, you know, you might stick around. And I just, I was working out today and I just had this weird thought. I usually work out late at night, but I worked out earlier today because I just felt like I needed to get this anxiety. I had anxiety all day. And I should have been doing more work like I needed to be doing, but I just couldn't. I had things to do. And I just had this weird thought. I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna fold it up, dude. I'm just tired of it. I'm not tired of the people. I'm not tired of the fans. I'm just tired of burning the candle at both ends. I just can't do it. It's just like it's so hard. And then you get, messages from people who tell you how you have helped them through tough times. Like, we had a guy who was a double amputee. Mm-hmm. Yeah, who sent us a message talking about, I read that one to y'all, and then I read the other one about the lady who lost her mom. And when you get people telling you, I live for Tuesdays, I live for these Fridays, and then the guy in the rest home, that is the only thing that keeps me going. Because otherwise I'm out. I'm just like, I would prefer to probably just sit there and write, and just do that, it just seems so much more peaceful. And just write books, but then again, it's like now people don't want to read, and that's something that's a shame. I was talking with David about that the other day, Weatherly, and you know, people don't want to read. I mean, they can just jump on and watch a show. And it is a very daunting thing for them to look at the live stream and go, oh, it's 3, or not going on 4 hours. 4 hours? I don't have 4 hours. Then they're going to want to fast forward through everything you're telling them and just want to go through a story real quick, you know. But that's not really what the live stream is for, you know. And it's for hardcore fans who don't just want to hear you on the go while they're working out or whatever, or they're on the way to work. But I look at this as a way to connect with my fans. And if it wasn't for this, and if it wasn't for you guys and sending me those messages telling me that you care, I challenge you. And I'm not going to say I'm 100% because the other day when Tony got me with those trivia, what was it, the quotes or whatever? Mm-hmm. It was 13 of them, right?
Yeah.
And I got 9 right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's pretty
very good, especially since I sprung it on you last night.
3/4. I got 3/4 of them right. Like I said, I'm not the smartest man in the world, but I'm pretty close. I'm kidding, folks, not really. But no, if you message me on Messenger or you send me an email, you want to make a bet that I respond. Because I at least try to acknowledge people. And that sometimes I can't because it's just I'm super busy. But if you're my friend on Facebook, I'm going to tell you happy birthday. I'm going to remember your birthday. I never forget birthdays. I'm always on there for happy birthday. And I want everybody to feel like they're special because you are. If you're a listener, you're special to me. And every now and then I'll call a listener out of the blue. And I will talk to somebody about something that they weren't expecting a call from me. And I'll ask them, hey, I need your shirt size. I need this. I need that. And we'll talk a little bit because I like to talk. That's just me. You know, there's a lot of people that think that their audience is stupid, and I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but my audience being stupid ain't one. Because you're not. Oh, dude. Sleepy Hal, once again, you made a very good point. He said, what's the point of reading a book if you don't even get to turn the page? That's my thing. I had that Kindle fully loaded, but I just could not get in. Something about having the book,
you lose your place. I feel like a lot easier.
It just I don't like it, man. You know, it was just ridiculous, dude. I just don't, Anyways, folks, Magman says, "Bro, it wasn't fit. PRT. I'd still be walking my dog. Oh, first, but can't anymore. Laugh out loud." Yeah, but that's the thing, folks. I'm going to do an episode, and we're going to try and knock out some episodes so that we can continue to drop some on Thursday for you. Because I want you to be able to get more content. If you think you can handle it. Now, I actually had a few people, 3 or 4, maybe 4 people, message me and tell me, Wolf, you're doing too much content and I can't keep up. Please tell me in the chat if that's how you feel, because if it is, I can scale it back. No problem. But if you want more content, I'll ramp it up. It's up to you, though. Please tell me one way or the other. But I'll let you say it here. And Bradford, be for insurance, send me those. More content, the better. Tracy Gill, yeah, you're Gail. You're late to the party. Always love more content from y'all, never too much content. I'm happy with the live streams. Take a break, don't overwork it during the week. So I take that as ramping it down a little bit. Would love more, the same amount of content, ramp it up.
Looks like they just want like a 30-minute show every 2 months. That sounds like what they.
Well, some podcasters are doing that. Some YouTubers are doing that too. You like last upload 3 months ago, and then they do a show.
It's like sporadic too. That's my thing. It's like 3 months, 2 weeks, 7 years. It's like what?
I saw the guy actually. I'm not gonna, like I said, I don't call people out. I don't like saying people's names because it always comes back to bite you when you. What I said about people's names earlier, I didn't say anything negative about them. I just told the truth, said what I said. Wasn't attacking anybody. But this person, I actually follow them. and they hadn't uploaded anything in like 3 months, and then it just popped up on my subscription, on my subscriptions on. So I'm sitting there, and I don't have a lot of time to watch television. So when I do, I have to pick my spots, and I have to be. If I'm going to watch it, there better be good because I don't have a lot of time for that. A few hours a week, and so I have to watch something. It's got to be, So I saw there that they had dropped something. I said, "Oh, cool! I like this podcaster." I go on there to listen, and it's a decent show. It was a couple of hours. Didn't get to hear the whole thing, but it did kind of aggravate me. In the comments section, I was looking at the comments section while I was watching, and the dude was like defending the fact that he had not been on there in a while. And he was like, "Oh, well, I haven't been on here in a while and I have my reasons." He didn't give a reason, but people were like, and he goes, "But by the looks of how bad this episode did, I'm not planning on uploading more often." And so I'm kind of confused by that. I'm scratching my head and I'm going like, dude, you need to be consistent, or people aren't like, how do they know? They're just going to sit around and wait for 3 months. I can't wait till this guy drops a show. I've been planning my whole vacation around it. Like, you don't be there at a certain time, or at least at a time when they're usually expecting you. And if not, let them know, hey, I'm not going to be there.
That's one thing that we were told when we were starting out, is that there's one thing, consistency and a quality product. And as long as we do that, there's no way we could fail.
Yeah, and this guy, his quality has gone down considerably. Maybe he's got something going on, I don't know. It's kind of troubling to me, because this guy's got a big channel. It's a little bigger than mine, and it's a little bit, not much. It's got like 30,000 or something. Like I said, some of these channels, they have these huge numbers, and
we're getting there. 23.5
inflated, big time inflated, because they buy subs and they buy views. But some people really do just have big channels. But this guy's not huge, but it's in the 30s, I believe. But I just couldn't believe he said that, and I was like, you just say that, and then I actually commented something, and then he took his comment off because maybe he recognized me or my name or something. I don't know, maybe not, but then he took it off. I said, dude, you can't just drop something every 3 months and then get upset when there's no views.
Yeah.
Or not the normal views.
Especially with the attention spans that people are having now. It's getting TikTok and YouTube Shorts is getting smaller and smaller. If you don't have a way to catch them like that, you're going to lose them. I mean, it happens it happened just earlier today. We started having issues with Tentacle, and we noticed an immediate drop in our views. Thankfully, you guys came back, and we appreciate that. But, it's just one of those things. It's like you're not going to succeed unless you're willing to put in the effort. And having consistency is effort.
He started to say something to me, like I didn't get to read what he said because he posted a comment below somebody's comment. Somebody left that up, and then another person got on there and they said something. They're like, "Oh, it's Josh Turner." They recognize me, whatever. And so that's when he I guess he pulled his comment that was, I guess, something kind of derogatory at me or something. But what he doesn't understand, though, is I actually like his content. I think he does a good job, but it's he's just not consistent. I can't make you be consistent. I mean, I don't know what he's got going on in his life. It's probably just like me. He's got a lot of stuff going on. I got a bunch of stuff going on, but I still show up. I still produce the content. Even today, I was scatterbrained and tired, got out of it,
I mean, me and Anthony aren't feeling well either. So,
yeah, and we still did 4 hours. Yeah. I mean, time goes by so fast. Folks, thank you for everybody that donated. Thank you for everybody that did the little $5 membership thing. That helps too, and it gets your name highlighted. If you want your comments to be read, Super Chat's a good way to do it, or just to be highlighted, do the little $5 membership thing, whatever. Yes, Patreon. Please go to Patreon, and like I said, $40 tier. We'll give you an extra shirt or a hat or a mug or whatever, and you'll already get 2 books. So whatever you want to give, if you want to donate more every month, you put the thing on there to donate, whatever, it helps the show. And I dare say Patreon right now, and my ads are keeping the show going. So we do appreciate the super chats too, but don't feel like you're obligated to donate. I don't ask people to donate. It's appreciated but not expected. It's just like tipping. If you want to tip, whatever. If you don't have it, you don't have it. But just showing up and giving us the views, that's a big thing. And then liking, and subscribing. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for everybody that donate whatever, and good night.